What's up, everybody? Welcome. What is that? Something floating. Okay. Nobody's here yet. I'm a little bit late, as always. It's Thursday night. Thursday night. Thursday night, we do analysis here. Some Prism, welcome. So, subscriber analysis stream. Sack Draw, thanks for being a subscriber. Astrobate, thanks for being a subscriber. Sun Prism, thanks for being a subscriber. Any of you guys guilty of being a gift sub? Gift subs are welcome. Anyone who's a subscriber is welcome to submit a game for tonight's analysis. We've already got games from 2 of 3. Sack Draw. Sack Draw. We got all 3 of you, actually. Yeah, okay. So Sack Draw, Astrobate, and Some Prism. Some Prism was the last one. That was fresh in my mind. Yesterday, Sack Draw, or 2 days ago, he sent it. Astrobate just sent it today, but he's always first. Our first game, we always start light with an entertaining game. It's too heavy if I do Rudolph Spielman versus Piertz. Mr. Slow's Spielman, our last actually game in Mr. Slow's Spielman study. I don't know where Mr. Slow is, because Tuesday he was like playing in the tournament without increment, like berserking. I don't know if he's okay or not. Little worried about Mr. Slow there. Not his usual modus operandi. It could have been maybe Trump's tariffs took a toll. I don't know. But in any case, we've got Astrobate's game, Mr. Slow's submission of the last of the 8 Rudolph Spielman games, Sack Draw's game, Morales with the game, Nefinov with the game, and then Sung Prism to Sung Prism. So let's start with this game from Masturbate. We're actually supposed to be black here. The least favorite opening. I'm gonna try to play in over the board rapid tomorrow night. We'll see. I'm gonna host a blitz stream tomorrow for like 2.5 hours, 12 to 12:30, 12 to 3. From between like 12 noon and 3 CEST. We'll do some blitz that'll help me warm up for the 5 p.m. rapid tournament. Not sure how strong it will be. I could be the best player. There could be other good players. I'm not sure. It's kind of a new thing. Last time I played, I was clearly the strongest player, but I think this time it's going to be stronger. All right. Hopefully, Panda can earn another medal. Let's get started. So, Astrobate, you're black. Opponent plays D4, and we played F5. Whoa. What is that? Dude, did you have like a sort of, what do you call it? When you see backwards, not dysmorphia. When you read backwards, you write backwards or whatever. Did you think this was a Sicilian? Or this was intentional? Astrobate. Dyslexia, yeah. When you can't remember what you're trying to say. Dyslexia. Astrobate games Astrobate games. Let's check it out. I bet there's at least one. Astrobate as black. Wow. 0 games found. Huh. 0 games found. Astrobate, was that a dyslexic moment? You thought it was the Sicilian? Or you thought you were white and you're playing the English? Somebody tricked you and changed the color of the pieces on you. Well, I got no games with Astrobate as black. Wow. That's... It must have been a rough day. Okay, anyway, the Dutch is fine. Dutch is risky. I don't recommend playing it unless you have a lifetime of experience, but in general, I think the move is okay. You know, you get good control of e4. You know, it's a little bit hyper modern, but at the same time, you know, not as hyper modern as some things. You're still getting like concrete central control with the move f5. So anyway, bishop f4. Yeah, it's just like, my new theory is that we should all play like we should all just play like the small center defense, because people either play the London system or they play the Bodler attack, you know. So now I think we just go with like, you know, the small center and just neutralize both of those bishops on c4 and f4. So Antonio, welcome. Astrobate, we don't know whether he did this on purpose or it was dyslexia, but he played f5. Opponent, of course, plays bishop f4, which it's not bad, but I don't think it's particularly great against the Dutch. So then knight f6. Other moves include d6, e6, g6. Knight f6 is the most normal. And then white plays knight to c3. So we see a player who obviously wants to play the so-called Java or Java London. Only thing is, like, actually knight c3 is probably better against the Dutch than normal classical d4 defenses. So knight c3 is probably better against the Dutch than against d5, for example. This is actually not such a bad move for white under the circumstances. You've got d6, e6, or g6. Mr. Slow! Mr. Slow is back! He's back from his, I don't know, I think tariffs. Economic Forum meeting on how to deal with American tariffs. Mr. Slow gifting 5... Wow. Alright. B. Karu. Bustin Silhouette. Kiwi Bites. Kiwi Bites. Peoples 923 and Fnatic Chess UA. Mr. Slow, I was worried about you. You know, seriously. Tuesday tournament with Berserking. I was like, oh man, what's up with Mr. Slow? I hope he's okay. I thought maybe it was either Trump's tariffs or maybe you had a little too much Oktoberfest in April. All right, knight c3 and now black played c5. This is a bad move by Astrobate now, turning into Benoni. He just made a decision. Okay. It was just uncharacteristic. I was worried about you. You're normally very, you know, very increment dependent, and I was shocked that you would do Berserking when you're like so good at increment. I thought you must be drinking too much beer or something. So that's fine. I'm glad you're fine. Astrobate never plays c5. You've already played f5, so you either need to play like e6, d6, or g6, and then the other that's true, Mr. So one man's tilt as another man's like rock solid play. It's all a matter of perspective. Another move Astrobate could play would be like knight c6 and d5. You go e5, and if bishop g3, you play f4, I guess. But that's a little bit experimental. I would think that the sensible thing to do here is e6, and then the next closest is like d6, and then finally g6. But g6, yeah, g6 is reasonable. You played c5. This is very extreme. It's not horrible, but you know, white has a bunch of options. Of course, pushing the pawn probably not popular with the Jabava London guys. They can take, they can push, they can play e3. They could pretty much, that's about the limit of what they could do. They shouldn't allow you to just like take on d4 I guess even knight f3 isn't so bad. So he plays that. That's not a good move, Master. He managed to find a not so hot move. So knight b5 now. Astrobate has a clear queen a5 check, which doesn't win a piece, but it sends white back and gains time. So rarely queen a5 is good. This is one instance. This is one instance, and thanks for the gift subs, Mr. So. One instance where queen a5 is actually a positive move. Queen actually looks very powerful here. Queen a5 check, knight b5, knight c3. You have a choice, but taking queen takes d4, knight c6 obviously is not bad. You could also try for knight e4, or maybe the move in the game not so good here. I don't know, knight d5. But the other move, interesting. Okay, this is also good to a degree. And the nice thing about this move is that you might still have the queen a5 check ideas in your back pocket. So white now, you know, obviously needs to deal with the threat of knight takes bishop. But he doesn't. If c4, are you joking, Antonio? What happens if c4? Now, clearly white needs to address the issue at hand. So, I mean, at the very minimum, he can play bishop takes b8. Bishop g3. Now, maybe, you know, he meant to play bishop g3, f4, c4, and he got his move order tangled up or something like that. You know, weird things happen. But the guy played c4, and this drops a piece. Knight takes f4. And now queen d2, knight e6, d5. Now, this may seem like a very stupid game, but it is Astrobate's first Dutch after all. And so now, you know, we got a kind of tough call. Even if your knight could go to d4, it can get trapped on d4. So the best move for black is... Astrobate failed to find it. He failed to find the best move here. It's pretty obvious. You know, what you don't want to do is, like, ignore the threat of queen e3. Play a6 and get, you know, smothered mated by knight d6. But I think the best move is knight c7. You're challenging his knight on b5. And if he tries to avoid the exchange of knights, then you go d6 and you're playing your Benoni and everything's cool. And your knight on c7 is not so bad. So clearly that's the way to go here. This isn't as good. You're giving up a pawn, which you didn't need to give up. All right. He doesn't even take it. Now your knight's almost trapped. No, notice the almost trapped. f4. Only way to not lose a knight. 1 in 64. But you failed to find the best move. No, I mean, I think that knight d4 is a concession. You know, you're giving back a pawn, which you shouldn't give back, probably. If you give enough concessions, then the opponent will get back in the game. This is an unnecessary concession. Knight c7 is a really good move because it challenges a developed piece. I think, you know, other moves obviously are losing a piece. a6 is a move too, but he would just simply go back, and then, you know, on knight d4 you get trapped. This would be the worst variation, by the way. This is the worst possible. a6, knight c3, then you go back. But now he has a move to do what he wants. So I think knight c7 was the best. Anyway, knight d4, you're almost trapped, and then f4. Good call. And then e3. So he should cover f5 so you can't get out. That means white should play g4. Yeah, no, I mean, white should avoid exchanges there, definitely. If a6, knight c3. Don't trade pieces with white. He's down a piece. His best shot is g4. Now, can we save our knight? Is what I'm wondering. We can. Because we can take en passant, freeing up the f5 square. If he recaptures, we have to get out while the getting's good, so to speak. If white plays, like, I don't know, G4, knight d6, we're playing the freaking vulture at this point, and it's starting to look like white has a lot of compensation. Now, maybe it's not enough, but it's getting close, you know. I'm just trying to illustrate how this could possibly go wrong. And none of it was necessary. F4, E3, luckily he plays that, which isn't quite as good, you know, not his best move. And you should take here. I think white will take back with a pawn, and then you go ahead and do what you did with knight f5. But I think you should exchange first. If he takes, you know, with the queen, you win a queen with knight c2 check. You go knight f5 unprovoked. He could take on f4, winning a pawn. Why give him a pawn? Bishop d3. Now, I still say you take on e3. I don't understand your hesitation with taking on d3 or e3. d6 isn't bad. Again, white can win a pawn with pawn takes f4. I don't know why he doesn't want to win back a pawn. Instead, after queen e2, white is angling at something that doesn't even work. White is playing very strangely for someone who's 1750, in my opinion. G6, and now bishop takes f5. What does that achieve? You know, and now finally he takes the pawn, so he has one pawn for a piece. He had 17 chances to take a pawn. He finally takes the pawn. Now knight f3, castles, and then h4. Remember, this is a London system player, and you messed him up by playing the Dutch. Dutch is one of the more disruptive moves, I think, for the stereotypical people who play the London system with white. I mean, my personal preference is to play d6. The problem there, you have to know the opponent is a London system player in order to play that. Normally what I'll do is knight f6, bishop f4, and d6. But here, you know, okay, you're playing the Dutch. You should be happy to see bishop f4. Anyways, so h4, e5. h4, e5. How does this work? Because he can take en passant. So you just have rook e8 and it's really strong. That's what it looks like. The dude doesn't know about en passant. So after pawn takes e6, you have rook e8. And on knight g5, you still need a good move, but I think you have them. You know, you can play h6. Maybe not the best move. We probably have something better here. Something simpler. Just knight c6, threatening knight d4. You have a lot of good moves. You're totally winning. This is not even a question. This game is a knockout. h5, and then e takes f4, opening up the e file, and now castles queenside. And now white has a little bit of threats on the h file, but your two bishops are like crushing, right? This shouldn't be any question. d4, knight f6, knight f3, e6, bishop f4, d6. Yeah, but I mean, that's I think at that point, you know, you're playing suboptimally. I'd rather play d6, you know, move 2, and I try to trap the bishop with knight h5. Queen b6, hg, bishop takes c3, say, whoa. We've got queen b1 check. And this king is very safe here. Nice. Nice, nice. And then we can trade queens, and we're up a rook. We're not up a rook, we're up a knight. We're up a bishop, whatever. Okay. Do we want to trade queens? You can win a pawn and trade queens. So here Astrobate does something rather curious. I see, he played queen b2. No, this is actually not curious. This is interesting. He picks off the c3 pawn rather than the a2 pawn. This may be a good call. Queen b2 check here, queen takes c3 check. This guards the long diagonal for black. I mean, I think white should play king f1. But he plays this. And now you're threatening rook a, e8. And then queen f3. Now, if you were to play like bishop d3, that looks pretty strong. Nice move. That's your best move. Oops, I lost my glasses. Bishop d3, that's your best move today. This game. And then boom. Yeah. Very, very crushing finish. All right. Good job, Astrobate. Easy. I like bishop d3 though. That was your best move, definitely. All right, we got a 5 gift sub pack from Mr. Sohan, and everything is good there. Happy Tariff Day, everybody. All right, yeah, we're gonna go on now to Mr. Slow's final. Well, from what we've got so far, the last in the study that I can see, Rudolf Spielmann versus Vasya Pierz. So, wow, I think I knew this already. Pierz has the same birthday as me. That's interesting. Yeah, I knew that. I had forgotten it, though. Well, all right. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, dear Sladgie. No, that's Pierce's birthday and my birthday. December 19th. You've got penguins. What? Even the penguins got tariffs. There's a new joke in the German Onion. You know those little Kinder eggs? Now come with a real egg inside. And they say that, yeah. They say the Germans don't have a sense of humor. Have you heard that one, Mr. Slow? All right, Vasya Pierz, December 19, 1907. Nice birthday. He lived till 1980. Not bad. All right, he was a Yugoslav chess master who was a strong exponent. No, but it's gotten to the point where a regular egg is like a prize. You know, that's the humor in it. I mean, the point is, like, you know, get something valuable in those little Kinder eggs. So now comes with real egg inside. As the prize is a real egg. I don't mean that, like, you know, you get the Kinder egg, but you also get the prize. It's like a real egg. All right, Vasya Pierz, Yugoslav chess master, hypermodern defense, now generally known as the Pierz defense. Or Pierz Ufimsev. Exactly. Nice. So, okay, Pierz is black. No. Pierz is black. Yeah. Yeah. We're white. Pierz is black. So naturally, we're playing d4. Dude, you know the guy plays the Pierz. Why don't you play e4 against him? So I wonder at what point in his career Pierz started playing the Pierz. Did he play the Pierz like straight out of the egg? Or did he, yeah, we need to make Easter jokes, right? It's almost that time of year we can make German Easter jokes. All right, so we got d4 against the Pierz master. See, the thing is, like, you could play d4 or e4. Those Pierz guys, they don't care. They'll just play d6 no matter what. You know, you're not avoiding anything. You might as well just play e4 against Pierz. Oddly enough, though, he does not go into a Pierz. So obviously doesn't always play the Pierz. He wasn't feeling very Pierzy this day. And this game was played in 1935. So I guess Pierz was, you know, 28 or so, close to Pierzing. Peking. All right. d4, d5, c4, c6, and then it's a Slav. Ugh. Yuck. Is Nefedov out there? You guys, we started the stream with a London and a Slav. How lame is that? But, you know, the good news is that against the London, we had the Dutch, so that was interesting. Astrobate with his first Dutch. And now the Slav, hopefully we get something interesting with white. So, knight f3, knight f6, and then knight c3. Play like a man! Yeah, this is my old go-to main line. Allowing, of course, black to play the long variation of the Slav. Or Dutch variation, some people call it. I guess after Uwe. D takes c4 is mainline. Probably was already mainline. It was 1935. This is like Aliakhin era. Aliakin Uva territory, 1935. There he is, Nefyadov. Speaking of the Slav. Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't get I'm surprised you didn't get like your comment like flagged for putting Slav in there. Usually like sort of we get triggering the the warning bot or whatever. Are you insulting the Slavs? The Slavic minority? Yeah, but black does not play d takes c4. Pirc plays e6, which raises some interesting questions. You know, Aliakin, for example, and Uva, both players who played the Slav. Slav was popular in the 30s. Started to be popular in the 30s, right? The history of the Slavs. So Aliakin Uva World Championship match, for example, or matches, 2 matches. The you know, not a lot of heroic Slav players come to mind. You got Aliakin Uva. Floor played the Slav, though he never became world champion. He was a very strong player. Another player of that same era, too, which is interesting. So if you think about it, all 3 of them, you know, Aliakin, Pirc, and Floor, kind of similar era, all players who played the Slav. Yeah, so my point, okay, black plays e6. Now, one of the things I was going to say is, like, how popular was the semi-Slav, say? You know, Botvinnik was the one who pioneered, Botvinnik would pioneer some semi-Slav. I don't know that much about the history of semi-Slav. There was a lot of games where we would play e3. I mean, e3, if we play e3, then we'll get a lot of games from older, even older, with the e3 type Slavs, with Rubinstein in the 1910s, 1920. E3 Slavs were very common. But this Botvinnik or anti-Botvinnik system with bishop g5, I mean, when was this first played? Is a good question. Of course, yeah, what happens in the game can always happen. It can transpose to a Cambridge Springs. The Cambridge Springs was known back then. Obviously, players in that time played the Cambridge Springs. So knight on bd7, okay. Here I am thinking it was going to be like a Botvinnik variation or something. Let's start a hype train for our coach here. Good idea, Mr. So with the hype train concept. Let's do that. Chess Riddle has resubscribed for 10 months. Woo! And asked me to get the tier 1 sub to Dr. Chip Chance. We're close to a hype train. Guys, close to the hype train, yeah. Antonio Morales had gifted a sub to Bookman, but that was 20 minutes ago. I didn't even thank you for that. I was too into the game. So, I don't know, we're a little slow on the hype train. But d takes c4. I wonder when d takes c4 started to get played. But anyway, okay, Cambridge Springs defense known. E3. And then Queen A5, which is the accurate way to play Cambridge Springs. I don't trash your openings, Nefyadov. I trash the... No, I think the Schliemann is cool. Although I made the point that your openings seem inconsistent. I don't trash all your openings. I trash the Queen E2 against the Petrov and the Slav because they're boring. But then you're inconsistent. You're not boring in every way. Like you play interesting lines, for example, in the Schliemann Roy Lopez. I don't trash the Schliemann. I just say I find it difficult to play against. That's different. Mr. Slohan gifted tier 1 sub to Niels and Asterby gifted tier 1 sub to Omaru. All right, Queen A5. Thank you guys. Hype train. Been a long time since we got a hype train. Thanks, Asterby, for the gift sub from Omaru. Okay, so Queen A5 now. In those days, everybody played Knight D2. Or not. No, they didn't. Wow. this was known, you know, as kind of main line even back then. So it turns out that c takes d5 might have this been a very formidable weapon. For some reason, knight d2 would overtake this move for many, many years as the more popular variation. I don't know exactly why. You know, I do know there's some weird gambits that exist in this line. C takes d5. For example, knight e4. Leboyevich has played this, Solskis. I don't know who invented that, but it's probably something really old. Sunk Prism even gifting a tier 1 sub to Wenardi. Wow. So we've got close to a hype train for sure. Come on, guys, just 100 bits will make it. We got close to hype train. I think we're going to need 100 bits. We're still going to need 100 bits. All right. Come on. 100 bits. Somebody donate 100 bits. But anyway, knight e4 is some weird gambit. After c takes d5, black plays the correct move. Knight takes d5. So both sides knew how to play the best line. This is still the best line, I think, by today's standards. Here's a very interesting thing now. What I was wondering is, so queen d2 is the main move. I was seriously keenly aware that I might face this variation in the not-so-distant past. So one question that I have, and I couldn't make up my mind, is like, is it possible that rook c1 is actually better than... Is it possible rook c1 is actually better than queen d2? It's close. They're not exactly the same. Yeah, you're not supposed to take back with a pawn. I did that once against a friend of mine. Got a bad position and won with my only Cambridge Springs. C takes d5. I don't know why I did that. That was a weird game. It was like some game 60 tournament, and I decided to just try something random. So knight takes d5, queen d2, main move, and now bishop b4 is the main move. And so now we have to play rook c1. There is no other move. But the point is, if you play rook c1 first, then after bishop b4, see, now we can play a3. And this is a separate and serious possibility. There's some questions about move order here. Down we got hype train. Come on. Sun Prism, and we got Astrobate gifting 100 bits. Still no hype train. What is this? We got to have a hype train. Come on. Somebody else got to do another 100 bits. We got to hit a hype train. I can't believe it. Sun Prism, Astrobate with 100 bits. Come on, guys. There it is. Astrobate with 1,000, but that's you. We got to do someone else. Astrobate, you donated twice. Thanks for 1,000 bits. Somebody other than Astrobate. Nefidov. For trashing all your openings, donate 100 bits. Bishop e4. Rook c1. Now mainline castles. Now I think that black's supposed to play h6. But this obviously wasn't that subtly worked out back then. h6 drives the bishop back to h4. And I think h6 is a useful move. That stops things like knight g5 from happening later. This is established now. Unknown at that time. Castles. And now it looks like bishop d3 is main move. You can also play a3. Now he played e4. Okay, so I'm out of my existing knowledge base here. Well, e4 seems very logical. Like, this can't be a bad move. It's Trump's fault. Everybody is Scroogey. No, you guys were very generous. Astrobate donated 1,000 bits too much. We just got the bits in the wrong order. Don't need 100 bits for Trump Day. Come on, the faster he fucks up, the faster we get him out of there, and whatever. All right, e4, knight takes c3, b takes c3, bishop a3, rook b1, and now black needs counterplay. Normally it's either b6 or c5, but obviously the queen can be kind of awkward in some cases on a5. If you play b6, you take away its retreat squares. If c5, there's some rook b5 type possibilities here for black. I mean, fundamentally, I really like white's position, and I'm intending on playing this line or these types of lines in the future. I can't remember who it was. I was preparing for somebody that played the Cambridge Springs, and then they didn't play it. I think it was Dr. Boris at the World Senior. But it feels like it was something even more recent. Mr. Sohan gifted tier 1 sub to Trump. The actual Trump? No way. There's someone named Trump. It's probably Trump's like real Twitch account. We still don't get a hype train because the donations are all spread too far apart, or else like hype trains just died or something. Maybe I've been like banned from hype trains because I hate Trump. I don't know. Maybe Trump blocked me from hype trains. B5 worth anything? That's a really ugly move. I mean, fundamentally, white is better, right? We have a very strong center, and that's why we're better. Our king is still in the center, but there's beautiful pawns in the center. As long as white has that, white is better. Black needs to try to counterattack. Black also has the bishop buried on c8, which is hard to get out. So his queen's gambit bad, bishop plus white has a stronger center. So black, black needs to do something. I mean, normally what you do is like b6 and sort of bishop a6. One idea is bishop a6. Oh, Bezos. Yeah, Bezos is controlled by, it's like South Park or whatever. Bezos is like he's one of those aliens with big brains. The exposed, like, giant brains. He probably, like, blocked me from getting hype trains. But thanks anyway, Mr. Slow. So b6 is an idea with the idea of bishop a6. That seems very reasonable to me. If you can trade off my bishop pair, for example, bishop d3, bishop a6, and this happened in this, actually a couple of games. One of them is very recent. Wow. Yeah, so white can try to avoid the exchange, but then you have to trade queens. Or variation B, you just, allow the trade of bishops. Yeah, this is actually, well, vital Levente. I never understood why Levente started playing the Queen's Gambit Decline, but yeah. He's like Nakamura. I mean, I don't know, aggressive player playing Queen's Gambit Decline. I guess the Cambridge Springs, though, if you're gonna play the Queen's Gambit Decline, Cambridge Springs at least a little bit active. So bishop a3, rook b1. This is a very modern game, actually, for the opening. And now white plays bishop d3, keeping the tension, but prospectively allowing a trade of queens. Rudolf Spielmann playing white. Attacking player doesn't want to trade queens, but we can't take with the knight. So I'm expecting pawn takes pawn here. Then we have to recapture with the pawn. Black will trade queens. White will retain like a small advantage. General Gerasimov. So knight takes d2. You could see maybe a knight swinging into c4. Obviously, white is a little bit better in this type of endgame. So even the great attacking player Rudolf Spielmann didn't mind trading queens if he's going to have such a nice center. Black plays instead bishop d6. And this move was played in some other games. Rook e8. Though f7 is kind of sensitive, it makes a lot of sense. It also frees up the f8 square, potentially for pieces to retreat back to f8. I guess rook e8 makes a lot of sense. So here, was not played in any other games. And the question that comes to mind is why? You know what, Mr. Slow, I have this weird feeling about F4. You know, the other game we saw from Rudolf Spielman. F6 is really horrible, Sun Prism. You know, F6 is gonna drastically weaken Black's king. Maybe there's no immediate like punishment for that, but it's definitely something I would be reluctant to allow. He does end up playing F6. Holy shit. You must have seen the game score up in the screen, and oh my god. Yeah, F6 is not, in my opinion, it's not a move I'm really willing to play. I mean, it seems illogical, given that you've already played Bishop D6. Do we really need F6? White castles. But with Rudolf Spielman, we're expecting Knight H4 and F4. I could see this rook lift, maybe. But it's hard for White to really make progress here. You know, without Knight H4, with our Queen on D2, what's the Queen on D2 doing? We need the Knight on D2 to threaten to go to C4. There's Queen E3. That drops the pawn on C3. It's not so easy for White to play this. I just hate F6. I mean, I don't know what Black's supposed to do. But I would really not want to play F6. I think he should definitely play Rook E8 anyway, you know? Like those guys played in another game. I mean, ultimately, Black has a Kali system type setup here. And the queen can even fall back to C7 if it has to. It doesn't look that bad. Well, what else if not F6 then Rook E8? What's the problem? Like Bishop C4? I mean, nothing is attacking F7 and H7 here. So, I'm not really sure what Black's, what White's going to do. Like maybe Bishop H4, let's say, giving us access to here. But even so, we still don't have any threats against those light squares. So I would prefer to play Rook E8 than F6. I mean, the weakening of this diagonal seems like almost suicidal for Black, to be honest. I would stay a million miles away from F6. Pretty much anything but that. He does F6. Yeah, there's no immediate way to take advantage of it, but you're just a couple moves from getting mated. I mean, just you know, Knight H4, Bishop C4 check, and then some kind of heavy piece landing on the H file, and it's mate, you know. We're really close to serious danger here. Like, F6 doesn't lose the game directly, but I mean, it's like, you're just so close. So what happens next? Very, very strange. Black plays F6, and then I'm expecting Bishop H4, which, you know, I may be wrong about this, because that would take away the knight square. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a major drawback of Bishop H4. We really need to try to use Knight H4. So here, okay, this is correct. Now we've got Knight H4. We've got Spassky-esque, you know, F4. Rip Boris Spassky. I bet Boris Spassky studied Spielman's games. And now Black plays, you know, I mean, another kind of, well, he's got a limited option. He's got limited options. Sun Prism's B5. I'll be honest with you people, like, Sun Prism made this suggestion earlier, but I mean, at this point, we have so little control over the white squares. I would say like B5 might even be a consideration. I mean, it definitely weakens the queen side. All right, so he goes here. So why D8? He wants to opposite the queen, and he wants to play Knight F8 to come back. And now the really crazy shit happens. Rook FD1, and then King F8. Excuse me? Astrobate gifting a tier 1 sub to Gary Hertz. Mr. Slow gifting tier 1 sub to Whatever Clever. Now we gotta be close to a hype train. Let's just space out those donations. Whatever Clever. King F8, are we serious? What the hell is he doing? What is Black doing? Did he have like a brain hemorrhage or something? Are you sure that's not a mouse slip? Whatever Clever got the gift sub. We got a message here. Power of the new. King F8. I thought you were going to play Knight F8. I thought the whole point was to play Knight F8. This is insane. How can that Black King be okay on F8? Now White plays Bishop C4. Now, I have a question. Like, if Black were to exchange at some point on D4, what would White do? I mean, he's going to recapture with the pawn and just trade queens? White would undoubtedly be clearly better. But do you really want to trade queens with that king on F8 here? Right, it's prophylaxis against Bishop C4, which happened anyway. No, but seriously, if pawn takes pawn, what would White have done? You know, if you take with the knight, okay, it looks good. It's like a Sicilian, except there's these huge holes at E5 and C5 now. I'm not sure that I really trust this for White 100%. It's probably playable. White's definitely not worse with the king on F8. He's going to try to get mated by Bishop H6. And it's pretty scary when Bishop H6 almost works, you know, by the way. King F8, I can almost play this. You got to say, like, if that move is playable, like, your position is definitely dubious. I can play Bishop H6 and Black isn't okay. You know. Anyway, Bishop C4, Knight B6. So now he plans to take on D4. Okay. Finally, Black's going to do something. Bishop E3 takes. So are we going to seriously trade queens here? Do you think Rudolf Spielman is going to trade queens here? Because you got to start considering, like, my suggestion of Bishop H6, which does nothing. Just know that that's, you know, even a possibility. No, we're clearly better after pawn takes pawn, but it's an endgame, and it's not so easy. I shouldn't even say clearly better, slightly better after queen takes d2. Okay, so White had to plan this out. You know, he saw it coming. He could take with a knight, but now c5 is a problem, and there's bishop takes h2 check. Well, that's going to be a problem no matter what. It's definitely a problem on queen takes d4. Oh, no. So bishop takes d4, and now the question is, if c5... e5, right? No brainer. If c5, e5, with vicious threats on the king side. So let's just, for example, like this doesn't work because the bishop takes c5 check, and d8 goes. D8 go. Yeah, e5 is the idea. This is important, right? Bishop takes f6. Come on, bro. I should know Spielman by now. e5 looks extremely strong, Mr. Slow. But maybe it's not enough. Let's take a look. e5, pawn takes d4. Okay, I honestly wasn't sure, but I thought we could do this. This still looks good. Maybe it's not queen g5, another suggestion. This might not be good enough. Let's see what the evaluation says. White is clearly better. Oh, white has queen d3. Holy shit. Wow. Look at that. The Acer mate. Wow, totally missed my radar. The queen d3 idea. But I think e5 is strong, Mr. Cylinder. You're suggesting bishop takes f6, but there's bishop takes h2 check. That's not a problem. Oh no. Click, don't drag. Are you serious? Bishop h2 check, king takes. Rook takes d2. Come on, Mr. Slow. I'm not quite on board with this. This looks a little too much. e5's good, man. I don't think bishop takes f6 is going to work in that position. Maybe he was joking. I mean, it's obviously an idea, but unnecessary. No, e5 is very strong. All right, anyway, so black plays bishop g4 instead. Which effectively, like, fights for control of e5. I mean, everything that black has done is reasonable. Like, all of his moves, hyper modern, like, give up the center, strive for control of e5. But the problem is this fucking diagonal, man. I mean, you're dead, dude. You can't play with your king and that whole diagonal gone and expect that nothing bad is going to happen, you know? It's not reasonable. I mean, this is just asking too much. You know, so there's bound to be something here for white. You know, not necessarily something dramatic. I'm still looking for e5. It looks like it doesn't work. Maybe bishop takes f3. Maybe we could sack the exchange, you know. e5 is still close to working. But he makes a very rational move here. There's still, like, obviously our bishop is trapped after c5, but now the difference becomes clear. Now we really have bishop takes f6. So there's no more of this c5 bishop takes h2 crap. At this point, bishop takes f6 is like crushing. So Pierce, you know, he could play bishop takes f3, but it looks clearly better for white. So we're not playing matches here on wit. We don't use the term sir. We say sire. No, sire, we are analyzing games today. Sir is like the London system. Everybody says that. It's boring. We use sire. All right, so queen e3. This is a really good move. Setting up bishop takes f6 tactics. And now Pierce has it covered with queen h5. So you got to give him credit. I mean, he's pretty cagey, but still, can you do the impossible? You know, play with your king completely open on the board against an attacking player of this magnitude. h3 is okay, but it's lame. So now, white, you know, what would a weak player do? Well, he's starting bishop takes f3 and then take on h2. Our king could run away, so that's not necessarily out of the question. It's possible we could allow bishop takes f3, take with the g-pawn, and then evacuate our king to the light squares in the center. We're not getting mated. But, I mean, obviously this kind of move just sucks. You know, we don't want to give up our square bishop for nothing. So, it turns out that e5, you know, I still am curious, guys. Can we go back to the previous move, move 20? I just want to make sure it doesn't work here. Does black have some crazy move here? There are interesting possibilities with e5. I mean, there's this. And we could sack an exchange. There's also like pawn takes pawn and pawn takes pawn check. I want to see e5. So it turns out that e5 is sound, and that'll be called Sladgie's variation. Black has bishop takes e5. This was my idea to sack the exchange here with knight takes c5. Bishop takes d1. I didn't know if we'd have enough compensation or not. So if we just recapture with like rook takes, black is better after queen takes c5. Wow. So even that is like almost equal. So we have these weird in-between moves. Knight c4, knight takes c6, where white has sacked the exchange for two powerful bishops. Now queen takes d1, and then you've got mate threats with queen h5. So definitely e5 was on the radar. This is a very interesting move. He plays queen e3. We can't do e5 here. The game continuation is okay. e5, f takes e5. And then what? Yeah, so the king is completely crushed on this diagonal. That's just totally abandoned. You know, you've like left your king living in an abandoned like row home. Looks like a crack house. It's like leaving your like, you know, toddler at a crack house for daycare and, you know, expecting to come home and find him perfectly okay. That's basically what Pearts did with his king in this game. Take the toddler to the local, like, you know, drug house and expect to, like, you know, pick him up after work and he'll be fine. Completely unrealistic expectations about Black's king. So, you know, I know you guys like the analogy. Spielman just has to find the kind of narrow path, but he finds it, of course. So now bishop c5, very logical move, cracking the a3 f8 diagonal. That's extremely difficult to deal with. Bishop takes, queen takes check. Now, somewhat limited options, king e8. I don't like to look ahead at the move list, you know. I don't want to know what happens next. But rook e1 looks very, very strong. But, you know, there might be some other subtle move. I think rook e1 with the idea of if black plays knight d7. Oh, we have so many moves. How does black defend e5? This is the crushing move. Yeah, it is rook e1. You can't lose your queen. So now black has to play knight d7. But on knight d7, tomorrow I will play blitz. Yes. Tomorrow I play an over-the-board rapid tournament in the evening. But I will play, if anyone wants to play blitz with me, I have office hours between 12 and 3 Central European summertime tomorrow. It's our little blitz stream. I'll play maybe 10 games tomorrow. Rook e1, knight d7. Now you see when you play knight d7, there's this, but there's also this, that diagonal, that diagonal. Queen sacrifices anyone. There's even queen d4. Queen d4 doesn't seem to work. So this is absolutely critical. Now, queen d6, bishop takes f3, queen e6 check, king f8. Biertz was banking on them somehow holding this position. I would imagine white has more than one strong move. Time for king d7 and run. Huh. No, I mean, it has to be considered, but there may be a problem with rook takes c5. Maybe not. No, king d7 and run is not a really crazy suggestion. Knight takes d7 check. Knight takes c5 check. This move needs to be considered. Definitely. There's rook d1. Not crazy. I mean, black king can go to c7. That way his rooks don't get stuck. This knight takes check. Black can go here or here. I mean, it may be that king d7 is a better defense. Your king gets out of the center. This looks like, yeah, like you're stuck. So he finds rook takes e5 check. Wow. Now black has to take. And if queen takes, don't even tell me. Oh my god. This works? Are you serious? This works for white because of bishop f7 check? Wow. That may be the only winning move. I'm not sure. I didn't double check with the computer. Otherwise, queen takes e5 is a defense, you know, for real. Now we can take the queen with check, and we win for sure. Wow. Brutal. Okay, but okay, knight takes. Do we have any options here? For example, rook e1. You could play rook e1. But again, you know, that running away idea is kind of annoying. So white plays knight takes e5, and the problem is now we're threatening bishop f7. That same theme. All right, well, I mean, rook d7 comes to mind. The problem with rook d7 loses to knight takes d7. Damn. So if here, so if here, here, you gotta be kidding me if like bishop e6 is a forced win here. How much you guys want to bet that the winning move for white is bishop e6 check? I mean, there may be more than one, but this is kind of spectacular. Does this work? There is plenty more than one. Bishop e6 is not clear. Wow. All right. Bishop e6 actually lets black have an equal position, but we're winning there. So anyway, black plays bishop e6, which looks like it just loses a piece, but it doesn't because of back rank mate. So purists might still think he's like winning, or at least defending successfully at this point. Threatening both queen and rook mates at d1 with back rank. So we have to eliminate the back rank. You could play a lot of moves. You could play like g4 or something. But he just simply goes rook e1. There's something beautiful about it, right? How fundamental White's play against the black king is. So effectively, black just is playing rook odds in this game. Basically, what happened is that black just never had an a rook. So it doesn't matter that he's up that rook so long as he doesn't trade off all the other pieces. That rook is only going to matter if black can make it to an endgame, and he can't. After the game, I want to check and see if Sun Prism's suggestion of knight d7 has any kind of validity. But this move looks a little too desperate. That's the best black could come up with, then he's probably lost. Because now it's just like we're up material and we have a crushing attack. Bishop takes e6. Queen e2, back rank. Check. And now there's a series of checks. Check. Now another check. And now black must go to, well, it doesn't matter. Yeah. There. And now we have mate, bishop e6. And now the final blow. Maybe knight takes c6 check. I imagine knight takes c6 check would work. Knight takes c6 check. Pawn takes c6. Rook b1 check. He could drag on the game with like queen b5. It may not be this simple. This is better. Check here. And now knight c5 check. Very beautiful. So let's take a look at Sun Prism's suggestion of bailing out. With king d7. It doesn't matter apparently, but it is the only other move. This is the only other move. King d7. Oh wow. So we could win with the standard type of move, but bishop f7. Really elegant. Look how perfect all the white's pieces are, by the way. You know, how perfectly active all the white's pieces are. I think f6 was like strategically bankrupt for black. You know, like no way he should play that move. Okay, there's an easy tell. I mean, look at this position. It's been reached. Master database? No? No. Well, previous move anyway. Ain't nobody played bishop. Ain't nobody played f6 here. If black could have played h6, he should have played it. You know, it's funny. He could play f6 now. That's a novelty in the opening. Maybe now h6. Now if h6 here, bishop f4, preventing e5 and preventing the bishop from coming back to d6. But in my opinion, and whatever happened, I mean, f6 is insane, bro. This is insane. That's an extremely insane move. But in any case, yeah, he plays like rook d8 now, but why not like take now? How would white have reacted if he takes on d4 first? We don't want to allow a trade of queens. This was a better try for Pierce. Anyway, interesting game. Okay. Next, I've got games from Saksek Sean, Morales, Nefedov, Prism, the mysterious noob, power of the noob. Oh no, it's a Cambridge Springs variation. The theme. Well, that was the best opening we had today. It was a Slav, but at least it became a Cambridge Springs, which is more interesting than the Slav. Nothing personal, Nefedov. Nefedov gets so easily offended. All of your openings suck except for the Schliemann. I'm still here. All right. Ready to start. William J. Yeah, that was a great game. Nom nom. Guys, thanks for the non-hype train. What happened to our hype trains? Was hype trains disabled by Jeff Bezos? Seriously? Guys, thanks to everybody for your support, getting us to our gift sub goal. I mean, our donation goal. And next week, we're going to order our desktop computer with the money that everyone donated. So just keep you posted on that. Next donation goal unclear. I mean, I've got the World Senior in October in Gallipoli, in Italy, but that's still quite a long way off. But maybe we need to start seriously considering making that the next donation goal. All right, it's not that long, right? April, May, June, July, August, September. Oh, okay. It's 6 months. It's half a year. You know. Okay. Anyway, Sac Shaun the Sheep. E4, E5. This is the best move for black. And now, yeah, I was looking at the starting position, and if white plays D4, black has two moves that are good. After D4, black can play either knight F6 or D5, and in both cases, white is better by 0.2 center pawn loss. So D4 allows black two ways to have a small disadvantage as 1/5 of a pawn. Whereas interestingly, if E4, white only faces one move that keeps white's advantage to 1/5 of a bunny, 1/5 of a center pawn. Only E5 keeps white's advantage at bay. Anything else, like the Sicilian, is 0.3. There's no Budapest Spring Festival this year. I mean, there is, but not for chess. I think they substituted like that Netanyahu for that. We're having Netanyahu instead. Yeah, the Budapest Spring Festival has always been kind of, it's on and off. We've had some good tournaments. We've had some non-tournaments. There was no Budapest Spring Festival that I could see for this year. No good tournaments here at all, really. We're in it's a down year for Hungarian chess. It's a down it's a down century for Hungarian chess, man. I mean, down decades. The last two have been down decades. This is definitely a down decade. The 2020s is not really good for Hungarian chess. 2010s wasn't so bad, but it seems to be getting worse. It's like the Hungarian economy. Anyway, E4, E5, Knight C3. Now, there's only, what, 3 good moves? You can even play Bishop C5. But okay. I also prefer to play Knight F6. I think this is the most combative. And now white plays the annoying Bishop C4. I feel like, okay, the best move for white is Knight F3. But aside from Knight F3, the move that's the most annoying to play against is Bishop C4. And here, I've been experimenting, personally, between Bishop C5 and C6. C6 doesn't have a lot of followers, though I'm not really sure. I guess because of Knight F3. So you have to go Bishop C5. All right, this move order, Morales and I have had a lot of games. I don't really like Knight C6. That's a very okay move. There's also Knight C4, which is extremely well known. Of course, the Dracula Frankenstein variation. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's like the most common moves, but I really don't like this Knight takes E4 as much. I mean, I guess if you're playing for a draw, if you're just trying to equalize, maybe Knight takes E4 is good enough. But I imagine if you want to win for black, the problem with Knight takes E4 is trading pieces leads to like very forced sequences. Statistically, it's okay. I like Bishop C5 the best. And knight c6 is a very standard move. I think knight c6, a lot of times you have to play like knight a5 and go after their bishop on c4 and lose some control of the center, and the positions aren't easy to play. I think bishop c5 is the easiest to play. And there's also bishop b4. Anyway, this move looks too passivo. Muy pasivo. Pacífico. White, you know what's funny? There's no games with d4. How bad could that be? Well, again, knight f3 is a good move. There is a question, though. I have a question. Okay, this is legit, though. Maybe you are threatening knight takes c4 now. So if knight f3, maybe suddenly knight takes c4 becomes really a little bit better. So let's check. Let me check this out for a second. If knight f3, can I take here? It's bad, apparently. Because the bishop f7, king f7, knight e5, check, king g8. I mean, you never know until you really analyze a particular variation to be sure. It's not like black is lost, but apparently white is better here. I was just wondering if we're threatening knight takes e4. So I would argue that, yeah, you're playing a Hungarian defense. It's okay after d6. I'm a little scared of d4. I don't want to have to play the Philidor. Okay, you can play knight c6. Probably, yeah. Knight c6 is okay. Then white will play d4. And then we have to play d6. Well, we should play d6. It's a Hungarian defense. Alright, so what about other options for white with this bishop e7? You can obviously try like f4. There's a Gdansky versus Rosentalis from 99. This looks like how I lost recently to Morales, almost. Reminds me a lot of how I lost to Morales. I mean, if black's best move is d6, he's in trouble. Any other suggestions from the peanut gallery? We can't play knight takes c4 now? This is a very, very rare position, and I'm sure like Rosentalis wasn't sitting there like, oh, I really want to play knight takes c4. But yeah, knight takes c4, bishop f7, king f7. Let's check it again. We need to check this again after f4. Wow. So it's actually playable now. It almost equalizes. Knight takes e4, knight takes e4. If bishop takes f7, king f7, you've got a good, like, fried liver type of thing with d5. I knew that we have to look at this. So this move is best. Dude, this is actually better than d6. I had the feeling... Anyway, that didn't happen in the game. It doesn't really matter. All right, I'm getting carried away. I'm sorry. But I was wondering, like, is this f4 critical? No, d3 is better. Okay, this is a better move. Correct. Now there's no knight takes e4, and we have kind of a quandary here. But what about c6? To me, it looks like c6. We're gonna hit him where it hurts with the tariffs, baby. Just my one commentary on, what do you think's going to happen when you elect a moron as president? For all those people complaining about tariffs, like, Are there Republicans out there who like, watch their stock portfolio melt down right now? Like, yeah, I wanted this. It's an opportunity to buy Tesla at a discount. No, all right, we're done. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole. You're new to E5. So C6, yeah. No, we want to strike back strong, So normally our bishop would be on C5, and that's a kind of common position. It's not that different, though, with the bishop on E7. You still probably want to fight back, if you can, with C6. I think it's important to counter aggressively. Obviously, bishop C5 is more ideal. So you castle. This is very sound. But we have no active counterplay to F4. If you played C6, I'm just saying, if you played C6 and white played F4, maybe we can counter more aggressively. But how? I mean, if I take, you still have E5, don't you? Do we really have, like, knight D5 here? Oh my god. This is so cool. So this actually equalizes. Only knight D5. But wow, we have D5. Okay, this is more logical. D5, so there's like 2 games here. D5, E takes D5. Now you can play a gambit. Wow, bishop G4. It's extreme. Extreme gambit with bishop G4. Recapture. I expected recapture, check. And then I didn't know what I would do now. Crazy complications. Anyway. So you castled very solid, but F4 is hard to deal with. So the problem is now, you have to play E takes F4, and I guess retreat your knight back to E8. You have that. E takes F4, knight E8. Oh, you have knight G4. You have Astorbate's favorite trick here. Oh no. E takes F4. And if he plays E5, you've got the Astor trick. Astorbate, remember this from the Accelerated Dragon? We looked at this today. Astorbate had a choice between knight E8 and Accelerated Dragon. The choice between knight E8 and knight G4. And you can do even knight G4. That's very cool. Because you have D5. If queen takes G4, D5, counterplay, winning a piece back. Something like queen takes F4, D takes C4. Black has compensation. For example, queen takes C4. I mean, you've got a beautiful light square bishop that white doesn't have here. Not easy to judge, but I would trust the engine here that black has absolutely full compensation. So after E takes F4, he takes back. Now you got to hit him with something strong like C6, D5. So this is a huge mistake, what you did now. Massive. White's better because of this. And if he's able to consolidate that, you're just worse. But if you can pound him with D5, you're going to get enough counterplay. The only thing is, like, if you go D5 straight away, it's just like knight takes D5, knight takes D5, bishop takes D5. I don't think you have enough compensation. So you have to play like C6 with the idea of D5. The point is, he can't stop you, it looks like. So it's Bent Larsen, Nikolic, 1992. I think I played this guy, Ardelian, a few years ago. So C6, E5, and now you move the knight. You could theoretically go to G4. What's the best? 98. Difficult to judge. E5, 98. For example, no one played bishop b3. Let's say knight f3. We're countering him in the center with d5. White takes. And white is left with, well, white is left with the same advantage he started on move 2 with 0.2 advantage in Kharlov versus Kuzma in 1992. Bishop b3. So it's instructive. Anyway, I think it's very important that you understand that's the way to equalize here. The way you played it, you're slightly worse. That doesn't mean that it's not a playable position, but you are slightly worse. Here, knight f3, and now you played c6. Better late than never. He has time to play like bishop b3. So white really screws up now. You're threatening d5, destroying his center and equalizing. I mean, d5 is an equalizer. If white castles, I'd imagine you pretty much equalize right off out of the gate. Though it's not forced. Actually, you also have queen b6 check and grab the pawn on b2. I don't know how dangerous that is. It might be a little dangerous. Needless to say, if castles, queen b6 check is kind of materialistic. But I guarantee it's been played. So here, white has d4. No, I don't know. If castles, can we just play d5? It's the main move. Apparently not best. I feel like it's okay though. If we trade on e4, the bishop remains very strong in this diagonal. So even if we have the better structure, his bishop's very annoying against f7. These tricks welcome. So it's better if you can get, some way of knocking out his light square bishop, but he still has superiority in the center. It's not good. You're not going to completely equalize, after d6. But this is a tragedy. I mean, what kind of move is bishop g5? This is horrifying. Like, it's the worst move ever. What in the world does that do besides just hand over a tempo? This is the last piece he wants to trade for your bad bishop on e7. You have knight takes e4, don't you? Maybe not. So if knight takes e4, bishop takes e7, queen e7, pawn e4. That's a problem. Knight c3, bishop takes d8, knight takes d1. This actually looks okay. Complicated to say the least. Looks like you're gonna have to do something crazy. Bishop g5, knight takes b2, bishop b3. Now you have to play b5 to not lose a piece. Well, oftentimes such tactics are a mistake, but you definitely have other options. This is by far, not forced. I mean, knight takes e4 is certainly not forced. d5 is okay. d5 makes tons of sense. That equalizes. Takes. Knight takes d5. Now white has to be careful. I don't know. Nefedov recommends trading queens in some way with queen e2, and I agree with them. Bishop takes e7, queen e7, and now the move queen e2 should be accompanied by a please draw. In the spirit of Lukács Péter, I would like a draw very much, and black can play for a win here. But he plays instead knight e2, which needless to say is not good. So even on queen e2, you have some strong moves. Wow. Damn, the dude literally had to play queen e2. Literally his only move here. Wow. I don't know. I wouldn't speculate. I mean, I would imagine like, yeah, e3 is really weak. Maybe he was afraid of knight e3, you know, but anyway, knight e3 is coming. No, seriously, what happens after queen e2, knight e3? Does he seriously have like king d2? No. Yeah. No, it's maybe not clear, but apparently white is like not worse, a tiny bit better. Wow. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. So freakish, it's like a freakish tactic. Bishop e3, and if you take on g2, your knight is trapped. Can you believe that? Queen takes, and now your knight is trapped. You're going to have to do g5 to not lose a knight here. Can you believe that? I just like saying that over and over again. g5, no, that doesn't work. Yeah, it's freakish, man. It's freakish. Freakish tactic. So knight e3 is no good. You just have to trade queens, and it's a draw. Probably. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty equal after queen takes e2. King e2. Knight takes c3 check. B takes c. Rook e8 check. Actually, you gotta watch your b7 pawn. White's still like... No, you don't have to. It's equal. It's equal. It's equal. Wow, that's amazing. And he played that. That's insane. It's almost like, you know, the only explanation for this move is that white completely missed knight e3 or something. How could you voluntarily allow this to happen to yourself? You know, knight e3. That's gruesome. And I mean, even knight takes c4 is good for black. No doubt. You know, but winning this pawn, okay, fine. Now white has to decide between king f2 and king f1 and king d1. It's all bad. His only hope is to open g-file or something, but I mean, dude, the queens are on the board and your pieces are going to get out pretty quickly. He's completely lost. I'm a little tempted to play like knight g6, but you're probably fine doing this and developing quickly. Yeah. You gotta watch the mate on g7. This is very convenient. Check. Oops. Another game with rook odds by one of our opponents. Wow. So just do something about the g7. You don't seem concerned about g7. Now you are. That's a nice move. That takes care of the g7 issue. No mate, and therefore we can't screw this up now. Conveniently defending f7. Yeah. Now you got fancy with pawn takes, bishop takes, and what's the... We just take back on d3. Ugh. Yeah. He's completely lost. Oh, I missed that too. I have a bad feeling about this for white, though. Though queen check may not be good enough. We're going to need... we could really use a double threat here. This is a cute move. Oh! Nice. Nice. Alright, good game. Anyway, that was a nice game. The opening, though, I gotta say, like, bishop b7 is kind of passive, and d6 is kind of like losing the battle in the opening. Against those Vienna, any kind of this Vienna stuff, if we don't counter them actively with d5 in the center, we're going to be worse. You know, it's like they're playing the King's Gambit for free. You can't let your opponent play the King's Gambit for free. I got a bad game against Morales in the Simon on Sunday, doing basically the same thing. Getting a position where I just didn't counter the center. All right, Morales. Speaking of Morales versus Uber Driver. Where is Morales? How's the hype train? Mr. Snowhand gifted us something, whatever, clever. That was an hour ago. All right. Tomorrow, guys, I'm going to be here, my office hours, 12 to 3-ish. Around 12 to 3 afternoon. And then I'm going to try to play in a rapid tournament tomorrow night. Yeah, all right, Morales, Uber Driver. But Morales has something he said about this. Hi, in case you have a software night stream, it's a bit over the top to show a game that I won that easy. Oof. This is for Uber Driver. It's a bit over the top to show a game that I won that easily. The purpose is to illustrate this opening gambit line against c5 in the advanced Caro, which I don't mind bashing on Uber Driver. I mean, Nefedov aside, I trust Nefedov's openings a lot better than the c5 Caro Khan, which Uber Driver's like, Bofinik played it. Okay, dude, that's not relevant at this point. Which once again demonstrates to be quite good. I missed some tactics. Getting old, but the point remains that the gambit is strategically sound. The opponent was no other than the strong Uber Driver. Alright. So, yeah, I mean, I told Uber Driver the other day, like, the problem with the Caro Khan, I was surprised to see him playing the Caro Khan. Okay, first off, I didn't think that Uber Driver played the Caro Khan. He plays E6 Sicilians and like French and E5. So I wasn't aware of him playing the Caro Khan. I know from personal experience playing the Caro Khan, like the advanced variation is the biggest problem. The main lines are good too. But now in the main lines, black has knight f6 and take with the e-pawn, and it's very hard for white to get any advantage. So it's like clearer than ever at this point that the biggest threat to the Caro Khan is the advanced variation. And Uber Driver's like, oh no, like he acts like we just discovered it. He's like, oh no, there I have c5. It's like, dude, the c5 is no easier and probably even less reliable than bishop f5. Honestly, this is not like a new idea. There's like a million games. But I think I'd rather play bishop f5 at the end of the day. My opinion of this move is that it's more trouble than it's worth. You're probably better off playing bishop f5. Which is kind of reverting to the opinion that was dominant 30 years ago, which is this move is just this offbeat, sideline. But all right, I'm kind of opinionated, and maybe it's better than we think. It's not that bad. I mean, to be fair, I think it's close, but it's not quite as good as bishop f5. It's close. And it's interesting, but I think the novelty has worn off, ultimately. If Uber Driver and I didn't give an op-ed on our games, what kind of stream would this be? I know, right? But, Morales' reaction is non-critical. The score speaks for itself. It's funny that okay, fine, you got to have your own ideas. And what you guys want to do is what you guys want to do, and you have your own ideas. I still want to search for the truth. I know the truth is out there. And to get like an X-Files poster. Truth is something that's really neglected, especially today with the right wing, TikTok media, and the truth is like less valuable than ever. I mean, it's 2025. Donald Trump is president. Netanyahu is visiting Hungary. Tariffs are going strong across the world. Hungary just left the International Criminal Court like today in honor of Netanyahu. Just saying, truth is something that is very limited value. But the truth is that c3 is not white's best move. And I think that it's a significant concession. So what we have to look at here are the other moves. Knight f3, yeah, that's funny. The other ICC. D takes c5. Yeah, I mean, d takes c5 is the main line. And after d takes c5, black has two lines, knight c6 and e6. And knight c6 was like Botvinnik's original, right? Uber Driver's still living in the 70s or whatever, maybe the 60s in this case, probably the 60s. I don't know if he's older than Val Kilmer, Rip Val Kilmer, but no, I think that Uber Driver's somewhere between me and Val Kilmer. He's probably born in the 60s, 68, 69, 67, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, this is better for white, and knight f3 is better for white, and even c4 is possible. I don't really know much about that. So I'm just saying, I think the truth is that those are white's best is somewhere in there. This is an alternative, but it's kind of solid, So anyway, it's Morales's pet variation. So c3, look at the score. All right, now, why is white's score so bad? Partially because the stronger players tend not to play c3. They're like saying what I'm saying. It's not so good, it's passive, it's solid, it's not the best. So why is white's score negative? Because c3 is that bad? No. Because the games are weighted in a way that not so many good players play this move. So Morales can actually use this to his advantage to some degree. You could say like c3 is underrated, most of the players who played c3 are like weaker players, and it should probably score at least 50%. But ultimately, white has a negative score here in 297 games. So, I mean, I'm sorry, I can't communicate properly. I couldn't state what I wanted to say here very clearly. Black's thinking now is like knight c6, yes. If you play e6, you're a French down a tempo. So that's not a move. Black trades pawns. It's also an inaccuracy because you're now giving white access to the c3 square for his knight. So basically, black doesn't have that many options here. You might be able to try something experimental, like, I don't know, bishop f5. Because c3 is inherently a little bit on the slow side, I'm not going to rule it out that like bishop f5 is possible, or knight h6. Knight h6, dude, I probably had this position. It's a, the 3 defense. Harriet Hunt lost against Danny. That's this. Danny basically played the 3 defense against Harriet. But that's what you get for playing c3. Now she took on c5, but I mean, come on, it's inconsistent. Yeah. But anyway, okay, main line, knight c6. And so now, what are we expecting from white? Knight f3. Then black can play bishop g4. So that's the trick here. D takes c5 is inconsistent. We're being Harriet Hunt. She's higher rated than me, probably. But I've been kind of beat down for my rating points, honestly. I feel like I'm underrated. I'm getting more underrated every day. Yeah, so what do you do? Bishop e3, like Kupraychik. We can play a type of Kupraychik French with bishop e3. Knight f3 walks directly into bishop g4. Doesn't seem optimal. So, what are you going to do? Like f4? I mean, f4 is probably asking too much. So bishop e2. Bishop e2 is interesting. So I don't know if Morales has played this. Astrobate, what's up? And a donation, 100 bits. So bishop e2 is a kind of constructive waiting move. You could preempt knight f3. Can't play bishop d3, it loses a pawn. Loses the d4 pawn. Now bishop e2 makes a lot of sense. It doesn't weaken the b2 pawn like bishop e3. It doesn't allow bishop g4. You can still play knight f3, and then the pin will be less effective with the bishop on e2. So, and the weird moves like bishop e5, knight e2, come on. So it looks like this is the best move. And then black naturally plays like bishop f5, and then we're playing Adams Cummings 2023. That's weird, wow. Right, I remember that. I didn't watch the game that close. Oh shit, so that was in Terracini. And Cummings put up a lot of resistance. Interesting. Cummings is a really solid player. And Adams did not have an easy time beating him. But that's how that happened. That's quite interesting. So Adams used this bishop e2. Unbelievable though. Morales' idea a3. So he plays a3. Not enough pawn moves, but a3. This has apparently been played before. So what the heck are we doing? Right? You're kind of like tempting black into playing c4. I mean, Uber Driver is a French player. I wouldn't be surprised to see some French players be like, "Oh yeah, I want to play the advanced French down a tempo." You're waiting. Bishop e2 is a waiting move too. It's just a safer waiting move that weakens white's position less. If Michael Adams, all right, here, a3, and now black plays c takes d4. So you're saying queen b6. We're gonna sack a pawn. You have like takes and b4. We almost trapped the queen, but not quite. But it's interesting, no one played queen b6, which looks like quite a logical move. Take. b4, okay. You're not serious gonna take that pawn. You're gonna take that pawn? Wow, radical, man. What could possibly go wrong? Uh-huh. So what's the evaluation here? Wow. The computer doesn't think that black has any compensation. Ouch. That's harsh. Practically zero compensation. Wow. Interesting. So, pawn takes pawn. I'm surprised that no one played e6. But you are a tempo down in advanced French. Knight h6 is playable. Again, 3 a.m. Shah. Shah buffet. Knight c6. Shah the shark kind. Okay, a3. So black's options are basically bishop f5, or bishop f5. Is that what you're telling me? There's c4. c4 is playable. Yet to be tested. So bishop f5 is the reliable defense. All right, anyway, I'll leave that for another time. This seems to be established as the best move for black. Uber driver plays pawn takes pawn, which helps you a little bit. Takes. And so now he goes queen b6. Black can still play bishop f5, but the point is I don't know, you cut out knight b4, but you also weakened your b3 and c4 squares. He plays queen b6 naturally greedy. And knight f3 runs into bishop g4, obviously. And now, you know, white could play knight to c3. That's kind of what I'm wondering, right? Natural move. So if black plays e6, you're better. It's an advanced French. If knight takes d4, you have bishop e3. You win a piece. So he only has queen takes d4. What I was wondering was this, I guess. So queen takes d4. We need to get our pawn back, and knight takes d5 allows queen takes c5 check. So we're in trouble. Maybe you could play some kind of gambit here, I don't know. You can just take and take. Okay, this is interesting. So this is an alternative for you. You can take and take. Now, even though he has the first check, it's not that clear. King a1, knight a1. You would think this b3 square would save him. Check, king d8, knight takes a8. You know, it's funny, you would think like black was fine because that knight can get out to b3. That's amazing. Bishop d7, and white is clearly better. Unbelievable. So you're clearly better in this line. You could simply do this. Knight c3 is fine. I don't know. So anyway, you played bishop d3. This is a pawn sack. Knight takes d4, bishop e3. Looks pretty freaking dangerous. Difficult to see how black is getting out of that. There's a way out of this for black. Sherlock Holmes, anyone? King d8. King d8, bishop f1. There doesn't seem to be a way to get out of that. So he has to take the way he takes with queen takes d4. If he's going to take the pawn. And now you manage to turn it into a kind of gambit. But knight f3, I can't believe he plays queen g4. No, maybe it's not so bad. Alright, well he has a major dilemma here. Queen b6 or queen g4? What is he going to do after queen g4? I have a question. No, serious question. Morales, what happens if you would play knight c3 in between move after queen g4? What if you go here, attacking his d5 pawn? My idea is that I want to trap his queen outside the pawn structure. And you have a very serious threat of knight takes d5. If queen takes g2, you have rook g1, obviously. No, I know he went queen g4. But I'm saying, did you miss knight c3? Is this a strong move? Because you have threats on the queen side. Oh, he can just go back here, like immediately. I mean, I don't know how good it is, but yeah, that's true. Well, in any case, I think knight c3 is fine. You don't have to castle. Maybe knight c3 is, you know, there's a chance he'll play e6 and end up with his queen outside in a bad position. He should probably play queen d7 directly. Wow, you have a huge advantage, dude. Wow. You have a huge advantage. Knight c3 is the best move. So he should, in fact, play queen b6. That's a serious mistake. That's the problem. So let's say knight c3, e6. But how much better is it? You're still clearly better. Wow. So it's like a really good French style gambit for you. Taking this pawn was a bad idea for black. So he went queen g4. Yeah, you should have played knight c3. This is still fine. And now black, he's sort of defending against a non-existent threat. This is a strange move by black now. Plays a6. He defends against a non-existent threat. You know, so I guess black still has time here if he's careful. You can always, you know, it's funny. You might have some kind of your favorite motif, right? You might actually have an e6 type of shot in certain positions. Now with his queen on d7. But there's no way that black can play a6. I mean, that looks crazy. He has to try to develop quickly. You know, I mean, at minimum, e6. What's he afraid of? The d6 square? That's the least of his problems. He needs to get his pieces out. You know, so like knight h6, g6, something, you know. This is terrible, weakening the b6 square and c5. Your advantage just mushroomed. It's the opposite of what Tesla stock is doing right now. b4. It's good. It's not only move. And then you play b5, which I'm really surprised by. Wouldn't be my choice, but it's probably good because you played it and you know some stuff about these types of positions. I thought you would go for more predictable methods here. Bishop e3, knight a4. I mean, it is a blitz game. Yeah. So I don't know about b5. You're switching plans, like, but it looks good enough. Yeah, I think you should have gone for the other idea. You have very strong like bind on his position. You're still fine. Knight a7. Knight a7 is really insane. I mean, okay, he has a difficult position, but there's got to be a better way to play than knight a7. Maybe not. All right. Rapport approved this message. Phew, that's sick. Oh, bro, it's over. Okay, knight e7. He can play knight e7 now. Knight d6 check, no. Bishop c5. Ugh. Oh, you missed queen a4. Knight d4 looks really strong, though. I mean, it's pretty hard. Yeah, like, what's his best move? Knight c6, probably. He should go back. Huh. You missed queen a4. Yeah, there's huge problems here. Not Uber Driver's best game. Knight fd4. But I'm glad you beat him down in this line. Because I told him, he's under these stupid ideas that this is some, you know, the c5 Caro-Kann advance is some easy to play, you know, equalizer. It's not at all. You know, you're not even playing like, this is not even the main line, and he's like getting crushed. Queen d8, queen c2. Now he's lost c7. Knight takes b5, knight takes b5, and then rook a5, total desperation. Check, king d7, check, sack the exchange, and now black's down material with the king open on d7. Pretty easy now. This opens the F file. So he has knight h6. Still, the material is decisive. You know, that's reminding me of what is it now? My game with someone on sound. Okay. Someone on sound had a similar exchange sack against me. You just grabbed his H pawn. Ugh. Yeah. Alright, man, good game. Instructive. I'm gonna take a very short break and we're gonna be back with Nefedov, Sun Prism, and the power of the new games. Everybody, thanks for joining me. Be right back, just 3 or 4 minutes. So, all right, thanks, Morales. Good game. What, I got a challenge here. A 10-0. Frost Colossus. Sounds like something straight out of Hearthstone. No. Mr. Soyan, Sire. Mind another game analysis. Another 4-hour grind. Mr. Slow Grind. 4-hour grind to victory in a team match last month. No inconvenience. But which one is it? Game 17? Yeah. Alright, chapter PGN. Oops. Wrong one. Ah, shit. What did I do? Clone, copy PGN. Yeah. Alright, add a new chapter here. Frost Colossus. Mr. Slow versus other guy. Alright. Mr. Slow. Alright, we're gonna do Nefidov first. Then we'll do Mr. Slow's. Mr. Slow, you're alright? You don't have to go? Or do you want me to do that game first? Alright, yes. He's alright. Stafford. I'm going to take that as yes, you don't mind if you wait till we do Nefidov's game. Whatever. Okay, so Mr. Slow versus other guy. Wouldn't want to keep Nefidov waiting. Other guy. Another has the worst score in history of chess players. You know, that's funny. And that's not your opponent's name. Nefidov. That's not his name. Alright, we got Christopher Cox against Nefidov. Oh no, it's my favorite opening. Oh no. You should have played the Dutch. No, we're not going to criticize Mr. Nefidov's. Senor Nefidov's opening repertoire. D4, D5. Very solid. It's a good move. What can I say? Now white plays knight C3. Subtly disguising his intention to play the Jabava London. And Nefidov plays one of the best moves. I like C5 too, but I think that's a move that should be maybe preserved for people who play D4 with white. So F6. Knight F6 is a good move. Get it? Knight F6. Alright, Bishop F4. You know, in the old days, of course, the Borisov with Bishop G5 was main line. Now Bishop F4 has usurped that. And I like A6 a lot. Believe me, I've analyzed this considerable hours on these lines, both for myself and with my students. But I think, despite some criticism from certain people, I really like A6. Okay, it's not a classical move, and Nefidov is absolutely within his rights to play the Slav with C6 here. Another possibility, obviously, is E6. But what I like about A6 is that it keeps our options open in a Kraken kind of way. So we have even Bishop G4 still possible going outside the pawn chain. We also have B5 and C5. So I'm a big fan of A6. I like it better than C6. Nefidov prefers C6. But now you're not going to be playing C5 necessarily anytime soon. It's inherently like a very solid type of setup. You're effectively playing the London against the London. Now white plays H3, and I don't know what the aggressive Jabava attack, Borisov, Rapport style players here typically would do. You know, F3 becomes a realistic possibility. It looks a lot like Caro Khan after F3, like a fantasy Caro Khan. I could see a transposition happening. No wonder Nefedov likes the Caro-Kann. He's been known to transpose to the Caro-Kann. H3 by white next is, you know, a move that's more typical in it's more typical in traditional London lines, not so much the Jabava Verisov, Rawport Jabava Verisov. So I think your opponent is probably a little bit, it's a little strange to play H3. Look who played this with white. Our favorite Kraken player, Friis Nielsen. There's actually multiple Friis Nielsens, so I get confused about who's who. So another creative opening guy. Normal line is something like knight f3. Right. Well, I mean, there's also people who call it, you know, Mark Hebden used to play this for years, but more specifically against like the King's Indian type of setups. And Hebden would call it there's a British player it's named after. Barry attack. That was it. So that's a thing you do usually when black plays g6. You can play e3. And then, yeah, like what you're talking about, Mr. Slow. In the Barry attack, when black plays g6, you play like e3, bishop e2, h4, h5, usually with knight f3. But this kind of rules that out. Wait, I also play Sicilian defense. Not very often. Bishop f5. So it's symmetrical London. Friis Nielsen here played g4. And beat a 2200. I wish I could get matches against these people who lose against g4. Okay. Yeah, I mean, g4 is not really the soundest move, but not uncommon. In Nefedov wouldn't mind g4. I'm curious what you would have done. Would you play the automatic bishop g6? There's bishop e4. There's bishop back. Bishop c8 for the passively inclined. So Barry attack against modern appearance. Well, he would call it that. Like Hebden would call it that. I mean, I guess. Even if black could play c5. Anything with the g6, but you might technically be right, Mr. Slow. I don't know. So e3. This is safe and sound, and now white will play like bishop there. See, the problem with h3 though is that it's like h3 and f3. He's playing the gioco piano. He's playing the gioco pianissimo on the king side. That's what white is doing. Now Nefedov's favorite move, h6. And I think this is debatable. On the one hand, you might slow down g4, g5. On the other hand, white's probably going to play bishop d3, so h6 ends up being like a weakening and a slight loss of time. So it's common with 2200 players. I wouldn't be sure what to do here. I feel like e6 seems more constructive. We just keep coming up with 2200 players no matter what we play. There's always h5. Nefedov prefers g5 to h5. Okay, h6, all right, it's not so bad. Now Jabava plays knight f3. We're expecting bishop d3. And the opponent indeed plays bishop d3. I mean, bishop d3 seems very logical. And if you're going to play h6. So instead, Jabava plays knight f3, not playing bishop d3. Intending to play knight e5. What's the big deal? I mean, okay, knight of 3. Black plays knight on bd7. Vera Menchik. That's crazy. There's someone whose last name is Vera Menchik. What are the chances of that? Someone's like full last name is Vera Menchik. I think statistically it's very, very small chance of that. Knight on bd7. So you see, Jabava doesn't play bishop d3 because he don't like trading pieces. Coffee house, g4, bishop h7, and now he played bishop d3. So I don't know what the logic really was, but Jabava basically got a free g4 with tempo before he played bishop d3. Your opponent did not. He doesn't necessarily have to play g4 though. Jabava's crazy. Bishop takes e3. In a similar structure, I played cd against Nefedov recently. Vera Menchik is not Vera Menchik. It's damn close, man. It's damn close. You got just 2 different letters. I mean, it's very close. So on bishop d3, you know, you could consider e6, of course, because this isn't so bad. It's an option. Bishop takes d3, queen takes d3, and now what? You got no pieces developed, and it's move 7, e6. Now there's this. It's a Caro-Kann. So as I said, very similar to fantasy Caro-Kann. Well, you could play, for example, a3, but you know, even in the Slav, it doesn't mean you're never going to play c5. You could eventually play c5. You're probably going to need to play a6 though, if you want to play for c5, and eventually you end up playing a normal sort of structure there. White plays knight f3, and then you played bishop b4. So this is a combative move by Nefedov. I don't really like black's choice of bishop d6. That's a pretty boring move one player played here. Bishop b4 is more combative. Definitely. An improvement on bishop d6. The other question would be knight on bd7. I mean, of the opinion that Nefedov's position is equal, basically equal, but neither side is committed to castling. Black played bishop d6 in one game, and white castled queenside and went on to win. Theoliphus Taher. Joseph Theoliphus Taher. That's a cool name. But this looks good. This might even like encourage some people to not castle queenside. In fact, your opponent was encouraged to not castle queenside. Theophysus might have castled queenside anyway. And then you have queen a5. So I think that game, you know, very likely that had black played bishop b4, white wouldn't have castled queenside, which increases his winning chances. Bishop b4 castles kingside. And so now you're happy that he castled kingside. He's not going to go nuts. And so g4 isn't as easy to play. Still, you don't have to castle right away. I would play knight on bd7 if I were you. But Nefedov, is there anything where you're thinking like, were you ever thinking about, oh, maybe I put my knight on c6? Seems sort of stupid here. So you castled. Well, he plays a3, and now you played like the other guy with bishop d6. But in such positions, I mean, you got to make a major decision here. You could play bishop e7, Bishop d6. Bishop takes c3 is possible. He remains with a strong bishop, I know. But it's worth considering at least. Bishop d6 is the safe move. Bishop e7 is arguing that, like, you have a good bishop. Maybe, you know, your bishop's just as good as his bishop. You don't have to trade it off. Simple a3. That's what happened. What were you talking about earlier here? Black has queen a5. Nefedov might have gone for this. I wouldn't be surprised. You also might have like queen trades with queen a6 in some positions. So let's say white castled. No, you could do potentially like this type of idea where you trade the queens on a6. I'm not sure it's good in this exact position. I'm just saying, like, in general, might be an idea. I like bishop e4 though. Black decides to go back. I mean, you could take. Then white could even take with the pawn. But yeah, I admit it's risky. He keeps a powerful dark square bishop, even though it's a bad bishop. It's still a strong piece. I would be inclined to not do this. So you played the safer move, okay. He could play knight e5. Doesn't do that. Trades bishops. This position looks very drawish. Now you played knight fd7. Obviously, so that you can meet f4. You know, you can't play f6 because that silly h6 move. So we're likely not playing f6 anytime soon. I'm a little concerned about this situation, though. f4. Yeah, Nefedov has a legit problem. So here you have to make up your mind. All the options are on the table. This is like Trump tariff response. Your opponent is Trump tariff, and you know, what kind of response are we going to come up with against the tariffs? f6, making tariffs worse again. Knight takes e5, allowing him to take with tempo and gaining like possibly dangerous play along the f file. c5, a combative response to the tariffs. I'm not sure if Nefedov has c5 in his range. It could possibly set up some kind of knight c6, but yeah, it doesn't look right. And then what he did with f5, like f6, it does leave the g6 square weak. So I don't know what I would have done. I'm even thinking about some sort of half measures like queen e7. But white definitely seems better now. Something doesn't quite smell right here. And now f5, you're begging him to play g4. And you know how much you love g5. I mean, it's thematic to play g4. Plus he has like rook f2, double up, come over. You know, he's landing the first blow here if he plays g4 on the king side. So f5, understandable. An understandable response to tariffs. White needs to play g4. The problem with g4, right? If he plays g4, maybe you can't even play knight f6 because your pawn is dropping. He can actually take this. This is my concern, you know. If we had time to play knight f6 and like stick our knight on e4, we'd probably be okay. But white's too fast with this g4. So he plays knight e2, which is slow. You know, I think you need to seriously consider copycat, you know, knight f6, knight e4 here. Yeah, he could still do the thing. And he also has c4. So I guess white's better no matter what. What's up with your knight on b8, man? Nefedov has a tendency to not develop his queen knight. See what happens when you play the Slav? With me, it's like he plays a perfect game and he moves his knight on like move 27. decisively in the endgame to gain a winning edge. Do you remember that when you did that like a few months ago? You never moved your b8 knight till it conveniently moved out at move 27 and he had like a winning endgame. Something crazy like that. But this is the problem. I mean, if you take away your knight's best square, he has a seriously slow queenside. So this has to be considered, and still white has g4. No, it looks problematic. I guess you could go in here and try to hold it. You know, that would be my recommendation. But I wish we hadn't played h6. You played knight takes e5, takes for the f pawn. You know, of course, we can consider taking the other way. F pawn seems more natural. It gives him the square. Does anybody want to take side bets on whether or not Nefedov plays g5? I did not look at the game score beyond this point. I just wanna see what everybody thinks, because I know how much he loves playing g5. Trump loves to play g5. There was some weird Elon Musk quote the other day that was like, sometimes you have to sacrifice. He made like a chess reference. It was really out of character because Elon Musk claims he doesn't like chess or something like that. He said he sacrificed a piece for a long-term positional advantage or something like that. That's really odd. So I vote that he says he's going to play g5. I bet he plays g5. When you have played some Nimzos, you feel that BTC is natural after a3. Interesting comment from Gary Hertz before. The mentioning of this. The first case in favor of b takes c is the takes toward the center, but I mean, we open the b file. The a pawn is defended by the rook on a1. You can push it up. No, that was an earlier position we were talking about taking with the pawn. But I bet Nefedov plays g5. Queen e7. Oh my god, it's almost immediate. I mean, okay. You know, the knight's coming to f4, so I was kind of... I had a pretty good percentage of being right here. To be fair, Nefedov, he did avoid g5 for one move. Here you have a choice, though. I think this is probably good. I know how much you don't like developing. Queen e8 would also kind of bottle up your rooks. So queen f7 looks natural. There is another move. Queen... No, there's not. Queen f7. And now white plays c4. So Nefedov clearly setting up g5. White plays knight f4 and then c4. Queen e8 also prepares g5. No, both queen f7 and queen e8 prepare g5. But queen f7 avoids us, you know, blocking our rooks on the 8th rank. Queen f7 is probably better. It also protects the b7 pawn. Yeah, I think queen f7 may be better. But there's something weirdly inconsistent about knight f4 followed by c4. I don't know what white should do here, but I think the number one candidate is like g4, right? Like, we're playing on the king's side. Pretty obvious move here. g4. But the dude is like, no. Not only do I want to allow Nefedov to play g5, drive me back, but I want to open up another front on the queen side. Now Nefedov plays g5, the knight retreats. He doesn't get to get his knight on like h5. That's why g4 was good. I know the queen isn't ideal on f7. I agree. Nefedov, please, for God's sake, man, move your knight. He's like waiting for the opponent to play c takes d, c takes d, so he can put his knight on c6 at this. This is getting out of control. That's like the game we had. Please move your knight, man. It's unbelievable, and it happens. It's unbelievable. Oh my god. The guy takes on d5 and lets Nefedov develop his knight on its first move to knight c6. How many times can you play the Slav with black and develop your knight on its first turn to c6? Okay, the exchange Slav, it's very common. Relatively common, right? But my god, man. Queen h5. And what happened now? cd5. White exchanges on d5. $1 million question. Why? Why? He wants to open the c file. All right. He wants to go knight c3, knight b5, knight d6. And Nefedov has to take with the c pawn. The downside is that Nefedov is getting his knight to a good square. Better than d7. So white doesn't go knight c3. If knight c3, threatening knight b5, you're just going to have to live with it, I guess. But it looks very unpleasant, you know. a6 looks horrible too, but it may not be so bad, huh? You can play a6 and meet knight a4 with knight on b, well, knight d7, your favorite square. This might be the way you have to do it, you know. You might have to play a6 and stop that. So after pawn takes pawn, white plays what? Queen d1. So knight c3. The computer is just letting the knight come into b5. I would be terrified of that. Oh man, apparently he has a shot here. Wow, check this out. So a6, e4. Oh my god. Oh no. White never would have found this, you know. He never would have found it. I mean, not your average player who apparently e4 is like devastating. That's brutal. Now Rudolf Spielman would have found it, probably. Yeah. So, but I don't understand White's move at all. He plays queen d1, like he's trying to trick black into trading queens or something. And then here, and now knight c3. Well, he still has this, but like white lost all of his attacking chances with the exchange of queens. So Nefedov was like so happy to trade queens. Queen takes queen, offer a draw. Did you offer a draw here? After the game, your opponent pointed this striation to me. Maybe he checked it with his phone or something. That e4 line. Suddenly, Nefedov has undermining moves with f4. It just occurred to me. White has to watch out for that. He's kind of sneaky. He's sneaking in here now that his knight. So I don't know which rook to take with. I'm sort of tempted to think about taking with the other rook. But now black is almost better. This is the only problem. So a6, right? And now the only problem with a6 is knight a4, knight c5, knight b6. So white doesn't play it. If knight a4, critical move, what are we going to do? Okay, I mean, we can defend. You can defend. You're not, like, lost. But he's getting into the outpost square first. So it seems like white might be able to get an advantage. But he doesn't do it. It's interesting that he makes a mistake while offering a draw. You gotta play knight a4. You know that. You would have played knight a4. So he's thinking about like he wants a draw. And then he doesn't make the good move. He makes a bad move. He makes a bad move, offers a draw. And Nefedov was like, yep, I would have played knight a4. I'm going to play knight a5. Now knight a5, even potentially, you know, coming in with tempo, clearly, like rook d2 is a psychological mistake. But even so, maybe white should still... Nah, knight a4 is too late now? Maybe he should still consider it. You know? We gotta consider it. Though we go in first. He has to play rook. Probably e2. And, well, I would imagine that black is a tiny bit better, objectively. But it's not easy, you know. White goes passive. You know, he goes passive in the critical moment. Now we got standard Slav play on the C file. The last hope is g4. Now the knight has no squares. So Nefedov plays this, allowing g4, very tempting move. But then we have time to follow up by bringing more pressure with like knight c4, let's say, or knight b3, I don't know. So the question is what happens now, right? g4, okay, we can't take, but white can't take twice on f5. Black feels a little bit better, but there are there's some danger here. Are you ever going to move your king? This is probably a good move. He takes on f5. Now I don't know which way to capture. And I wish my king was a little closer to that f pawn. Rook takes f5. Rook takes f5. E takes f5. Now we're just 2 squares away from protecting the pawn, which bugs me a little bit. But white is somewhat paralyzed. Wow. What about knight c3? Nope. Nope. Knight c3, rook takes rook, check. Then knight takes c3, check, and then black has f4. Oh my god, he did that. Asterbait, thank you. Almost a hype train again. 100 bits. Yeah, it looks like white is close to Zugzwang. What can we do? b3. Oh, wait. You're threatening knight d2. Shit, you're threatening knight d2. Oh my god. Yeah. You're threatening knight d2. It's massive. So he could play maybe king g2. That loses to rook takes d1. King f2 is best. King f2, knight takes b2, knight takes b2, check. King f2 is the only defense. Black is clearly better. You have a huge advantage. +2. Yeah, he just collapses with knight c3. This is where they usually get in time pressure. So you check, and you defend the pawn with the knight with the pawn. And now you have 3-on-1 on the king side. The only question would be, could the guy get in there and go after your queenside pawns? He first plays b3, king f7. Dude still doesn't play knight a4. What would it take to get this guy to play knight a4? I think he saw knight c2. He was afraid of that. Now he can't move his knight to a4. h5, my king f3. Oh no. Oh no, what happened here? Why'd you play h5? I don't like h5. It allows the h4 trick. So you have a lot of moves. I mean, b6 looks tempting. King e6, a5, I guess. I think you should play b6. No, I think you should play b6 first to stop a5. Black's winning, but, you know, gonna have to be accurate. This doesn't feel right. h5, and now h4. Still, maybe you're still winning. It's a little awkward. You had to create this strange pawn formation. It's better than allowing white to play h4, though. He could have played h4. No. He didn't let him play h4. That was important. And now white offered a draw. Yeah, right. Dude, you're down a pawn and a knight in game. Ain't nobody taking your draw. As much as Nefedov loves draws, he's not into taking draws in night end games where he's up a pawn. This is ridiculous to offer a second draw. King e6. And now knight g1. Well, it looks like white probably gonna have problems. If the knight goes here, you've got knight c2. He's gonna have to go back. There's a little bit of trouble like finishing this off though. I mean, what are we gonna do? Can we bring our knight back to like d8 and go e6? Wow. Okay. You're still, I just thought maybe you could blockade with the knight on e6. Like, for example, how do we get back there? Well, let's say from here, yeah, knight c2, knight b4, knight c3, king e6. You could try to get back to b4. Yeah, that's your best move. I don't know why I probably didn't think about this, coming back here. Probably. You can reroute. I assume both sides are in time pressure. Thank God you didn't like accept a draw or something. You can always stop his pawn. But he has knight c3 now. Oh my god. Nefedov, it's king and pawn in game. Both sides are promoting. Your favorite. e6, e3 check, king e2. Oh my god, it's going to be a queen end game. Don't we have f3 check here? Come on now. Don't we have f3 check? I guess this is just as good. He can't take. If he takes, you push. And you promote and then you check and win his queen. That has to be winning. This is kind of similar. Except he gets out to c4 or e4. Kind of a nightmare. I mean, seriously, if you had played the f3 check first, he would have to go to d3. Then you have e2. Then he has to go to d2, and then you can queen with check. Yeah. So this was a huge mistake by Nefedov to play h2 and let this guy like stay alive in the complications. Anything could happen if you're in time pressure here. It looks like black's still winning, but you know, you let it be a little too complicated. Anyway, thank God he didn't take a draw. I mean, thank God you didn't take a draw. Not really like correct he offering, you know, 2 draws close together like that. But you know, the Slav winning with black, not so easy. I thought you played pretty well after the opening. Not my favorite opening. Okay. Mr. Slow versus other guy. Thanks, Pavel, for the game. Another other guy. Mick Slow. Thank you, Pavel, for your support. And Mr. Slow is playing white against the French. And now e5. Uh-oh. 95% accuracy. Now with more g5. Now that's okay. c5 is okay here. c3. And now the opponent plays the... We never saw this one, right, Mr. Slow? All right. We saw another French not that long ago. So Mr. Slow plays bishop d3, and now black plays the insane f6. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, I have never seen anyone attempt such a move so early. That's radical, dude. Wow. This has actually been played by some people. Peter Meister, I played that guy. He's a German IM. I think I beat him. And Reindeer Man is showing up again. Oh, Reindeer Man played this. Some actual people. Hambleton has played it. Weird, man. Willie Hendricks versus Colin Crouch. Fitzsimmons is an Irish player. I don't understand. Like, where is this f6 move coming from? I can't believe this is like... I can't believe this is like the move that people actually play. Wow. f6. Holy shit, bro. That's unbelievable. That's really a plausible thing. You know, normally black would play knight f5 or trade pawns to play knight f5. It's the same as if the knight was on e7. You know, if they play knight e7, you're going to play the same thing, right? I'm just, you know, it's obviously not possible. It's not the same to do like f6 here. I mean, c5's hanging for one thing. But let's just say, I'm just curious. If we trade pawns, can black play f6? They never play f6. With the knight on e7. 0 games with knight on e7, f6. Interesting white's reaction there. What about immediate f6? It's actually not that bad. First, you heard it first here. That's a good Easter joke, Nefedov. This is the bunny of silence. Vorpal bunny of doom. It's an innocent, it looks like an innocent white bunny. Till it isn't. But seriously. Yeah, so strangely f6 is even a viable possibility there. Yeah, I still, You know this guy plays this and you didn't prepare it. F6. Sorry I can't hear you. Hair with an R-E. Yeah, the question is how to react to this F6. The computer was just ignoring it with the knight on E7. And obviously the same is possible. Yeah, castles is the main move. It feels like, you know, you want to react to it. Yeah, you definitely, like, there's a very strong temptation here to want to react. But giving up the dark square bishop, as I've often discovered in the 3am defense with e4 knight h6, is oftentimes not really that good. We give up our dark square bishop, we lose control of the dark squares. If we take on f6, black has, you know, honestly, he can consider capturing with the queen too. It's interesting. So castle's okay. And now black, what, takes? Is he going to take on e5? There's only one game where black took on e5. This keeps more tension in the position. This is interesting. So look again. Look at the players with black: Marco Tratar, Reinderman, Kevin Go, Michalik, Fitzsimmons. They're all like okay, decent players. It's not so bad. Rook e1. I don't know why the Fitzsimmons was so familiar to me. I saw his name the other day. He's playing in a tournament, and there's some Norm tournament in the UK and in southern part of the country, Nefio. And it reminded me of the movie, the TV series, very good TV series. You guys watched The Terror? That was a great series. And the other captain is like Fitzsimmons. All right, knight f7, rook e1 is the main move. Mr. Slow shockingly finds that. And so now black takes. This guy seems to know what he's doing. So Gavin Wall versus Fitzsimmons, 2011, the most recent game where this was played. Yeah, well, black has denied white that piece control over e5, so it looks like a reasonable, like, Nimzovich or something for black, where black has a decent game, you know. What about capturing here? You trade pieces, but you free your queen. I think that's the most important difference between pawn takes and knight takes. By taking with the knight, although you're allowing exchange of pieces, you're freeing your queen. And so he doesn't have knight f takes. He has to take with a c knight. Well, that's not true. He has knight f takes, actually. But he has to play g6. Not to allow, like, queen h5 check. Well, I mean, to me, this seems more logical. You're clearing the f file, and the knight on f7 is not as strong as the knight on c6. So take with this knight, like Fitzsimmons did, and then play g6 to stop queen h5 check. There is a serious downside that you're weakening the dark squares. So I don't know, he went on to lose to experienced player, but if we take the other way, your opponent did, then this whole queen h5 thing is off. It also defends the rook on h8. So queen h5 can be met by g6. He doesn't have to play g6 voluntarily. I think it's possible that this is, you know, useful. White is starting f4. I mean, I don't know if I should use the word threatening, but you have some plans with f4, sometimes f5. But Mr. Slow goes to a different plan here with c4 now. Well, I don't know. Queen h5 doesn't do anything. If you play f4, black can try to break with g5, but I think he needs to be better developed to do that. I think this is a very natural move. Well, okay, it's black's move. By the way, all the moves came instantly. Well, this one too, like c4. Oh, I thought you played c4. Okay, I'm getting tired because I'm starting to like hallucinate. I was like, oh, I think Mr. Slow should have played c4. It's black's move, and black played c4. But this is kind of an ugly move. And it might be a good move, but it's certainly not the first move I would think of. So it's committal. But okay, he may be thinking like he stops you from breaking with c4. But I would think that black would play something else. So the first move on the list is like bishop e7. Second move on the list is like bishop d7. Some sort of developing move. Said he plays c4. Okay, I assume that he has some ideas here. Let's check the Lichess Opening Explorer. 4 games. Notice they're all like master strength players. But this position, yeah, so bishop e7 is the main move. And black has the best score with that. Going by the statistics, you would get the impression that c4 is not black's best move. Computer thinks you're clearly better. I'm not playing c4 unless I have home preparation that there's some very strong plan connected with that. Alright, bishop c2, and I play bishop c5, which is obviously, you know, his idea. But the problem is you can trade dark square bishops, and that's a good exchange for you. It's a French defense. There's a bunch of games here where I play queen h5. Are you going to have problems with your b2 pawn? You can always defend it with tactical tricks. There's also like knight to d2. But that moves a bit on the slow side. So this is logical, okay? And now queen b6. So better to take and then play queen b6. But it would activate your rook. So I don't know. His play is a little artificial. I thought you would take on c5 here. Like the Fianchetto solution. And the queen isn't great on c5. You played b4. I mean, b4 is an interesting move. You're creating a completely different change in the position. Massively changing the position with this move. He takes, you take with a pawn there, your rook's active. You change the structure dramatically. Astrobate, thanks for the donation. Another 100 bits. Astrobate has donated today alone. Grand total of 1,400 bits by himself. Thank you, Astrobate, guys. So bishop d7, and now knight d2, and now rook c8. That bishop on c2 is single-handedly like scared this guy out of castling kingside. But I think he should be prepared to castle kingside. So queen h5, g6, queen h4. Now castles kingside. And now you know, what are you going to do? Knight f3? Here you played b4, forcing him to take with a rook. Now you have rook h3. That's going to be difficult to meet. And someone might regret castling kingside. Because I feel things are going to fall apart very soon. This guy needs to trade queens like pronto. Yeah. So we found queen d8. It's a shame you have to trade queens, but he's hanging his a pawn, right? So queen d8, rook f d8, and now you can take on a7. What did I miss? Rook a8. My assumption is that you were concerned about rook a8. I don't know if it's enough. You think d4? Oh, d4 right away? Oh shit. Yeah, I would have fallen for that. You have d4. Alright. So he has stop d4, knight b3. He stops knight c5, but isn't he hanging his pawn now? So rook a7 is still not possible. Rook a7, what, knight e5 and rook takes c3? Does that seriously work? I don't think so. I'm not believing this. You have bishop d1. His other plan is rook a8. With maybe some compensation. Okay. So you didn't want to grab it. You played f4. Now he has time to defend his pawn with rook c7. Definitely no risk here for Mr. Slow. He doesn't risk the pawn. Knight d4. I mean, not risk taking a pawn materialistically. This is a problem. Now, damn, I didn't want to do that. But rook a3, a5. So if rook a3, a5. White plays bishop a4, a shocking move. Trading your good bishop. Do I hear time pressure? Do I hear that clock ticking? But maybe Mr. Slow, doesn't have such an easy task here. You know what, though? Maybe you could give up your c3 pawn for the a7 pawn. So what I'm trying to say is maybe you could just move your king now. Maybe it's too slow anyway, but I think this is worth considering. Yeah, you're down on time. King f2 is possible. Rook c3, rook c3, rook c3, rook a7. And you're still better. So now you have to trade off his bad bishop, but undermining e6 in the process. Knight d8. Oh no. Oh no. That I missed too. It by taking away the bishop on d7, you got access to b5. How about f5? f5 is always in the position. Good suggestion from Gary. I mean, it's a French, so maybe like better prepare it with g4 first. But this is a huge problem for black. He saw e6 was hanging. There was another idea I had. What was it? I mean, obviously, like g5, f5. That could work directly, but no, I don't know now. Bishop takes a4, rook takes a4. Well, no, he could try to take on c3, but losing e6 is massive. White has a protected pass pawn on e5. You want to play f5? I'm afraid it just leads to a lot of exchanges, probably. You know, you'll like sack a piece to get a piece back, kind of thing. I don't think that that's enough. It's playable, but not convincing. Just not quite enough time. Knight b5 is good. Rook d7, and now rook a7, rook a7, knight a7. You're up a clear pawn now. This is going to be only holdable if black can trade knights, I would say. Even then, it wouldn't be easy, but he really wants to trade knights. The fact the knights are on the board make it very hard to hold. With a rook ending, there's always a chance. So if this guy has any chance to trade knights, he should definitely go for it. I mean, knight c6 isn't possible yet. He's got to move the rook. So you move your rook, where do you put it? You put it on c4 to try to be active. Maybe black should have considered rook a8. Rook a8 might be better. Here, simply g3. And now that rook is stuck. So that looks like his last chance, honestly. I mean, if you go to a8, you're pretty limited. You've got to go to b5, and now his rook is on the open file. So at least he has some play. Still, he's not going to trade knights, though. That's true. Here, he can still try to trade knights. So here again, damn, maybe this is his chance. I don't know, knight c6. This actually looks like there might be real hope to save the game with knight c6. If you trade in the rooking game, not a guaranteed win for white at all. And if you don't trade, black it looks like black might have d4. This is critical. You can crack the structure. Looks like black might hang on. It's within the realm of a draw. You know, it's close. But after knight f7, knight b5, okay, he tries g5. This is an alternate methodology. It's not really enough, though. Now you have knight d4. He has no knight f5. Yeah, he's screwed now. This is lost. You didn't mess around with f5. Well, that's nice. He needs to sack his knight. And no good way to do it. Ugh. No king f8. Oh, man. That's ugly. Alright, good game, Mr. Slow. Not bad. Thanks for adding that. I've got Prism. The Prim Prism. Prim Prism, let's try to guess here. He's probably white. Prim Prism playing e4. I don't know if Prism is still here. e4, c5, knight f3, e6. And Dragonfly Hunter, thanks for joining us and subscribing. Great to have Dragonfly Hunter, an old acquaintance of mine from Boston, many years ago. Good to have some people from the real life carry over into our virtual chess world here. So thanks for subscribing, man. I hope you're well. Enjoy Liberation Day. All right, knight f3, e6, g3. I like this line. You know, I would like it better if black played a really stupid move like a6 or something. Our old friend Alexander Ivanov went through a phase where he was playing g3 a lot. You just need two more. You're up to 1,500, Astrobate. Nice donation. Jose Fresh just followed. Need three more. Hype Train. Need three more, no? Dragonfly Hunter, subscribe. You donate 100 bits. So g3 and knight c6 and bishop g2. Yeah, well, a lot of people traditionally played the King's Indian attack with like d3, but the beauty of this like g3 thing is that we might play d4 in some positions, or we might play c3 and d4. The point is to forego playing d3. So in that way, I think white can play more efficiently over like the standard sort of d3, knight out bd2, the dry, boring, King's Indian attack, which is kind of lifeless. Black now playing d5 in a French style. So we're transposing to a French type position. I've had a bunch of blitz games like this recently. So on d5, we should probably take. And the downside of this is that it does allow black's bishop to open up on the diagonal. But again, it's important to note that we've been efficient. We haven't played d3. We can play d4 in one move. Now the other thing, there's always a battle for this sort of, also in the Alekhine, if you look at the Alekhine with exchange variation, there's always a battle as to who's going to play d4 or take more space with d4, d5, d4, d5. And, there's some positions where black might actually push to d4 if you waste a lot of time here. He's not really threatening that yet. So my take on this is to not play d4 right away might be more accurate. First, get the king out of the center, and you've got ideas like rook e1. My question is black threatening d4? So if I castle, can black play d4 and gain a space advantage? And if the answer is no, then probably we shouldn't play d4. Just hold off on it. So if we castle and he plays like d4, there's one game where black did this. Ironically, strong players, Eric Hansen against the Dronavali. I mean, I don't know, man. That's really ambitious to play d4 against a grandmaster of his strength. I don't know, man. She's asking for a lot here to try to do that. I'm not surprised it's the only player who tried this, and I'm not surprised that they lost. That's super optimistic play by black to go for d4 there. Maybe she's had some success in similar positions against other players, but that's crazy, to do that so early. So I think you should castle. Anyway, this gives maybe black a few extra options. So bishop g4 is the main line. We're transposing, or it feels like we're transposing to something else. But it's not a closed Sicilian line. Like sometimes when the knight's on c3, you could be committed to having your knight on c3 if it was a closed Sicilian move order. This is not, though. So it's kind of surprising how many games there are. A lot of games with bishop g4. Maybe g3 move 2. A lot of people play like e4, e4 c5, like for example g3 on move 2. And I looked at some lines with like e6, for example. It would transpose. Black now plays knight f6. You castled, and now I definitely had this position on my board in blitz with white in the last few weeks, a couple times. And average players tend to play this badly. Like bishop e7, I definitely had like bishop e7 like your game. I had this exact same position probably before. Bishop e7, d takes c5, bishop takes c5, rook e1 check. Perhaps. Let's see what happened here. So this turns out to be main move. And this is Eric Hansen, Carlsen Magnus. Makes you wonder. All right. For those of you that are familiar with the Tarrasch Queen's Gambit, the positions are very, very similar. So that's an advantage that I have. Years of experience playing the white side of Queen's Gambit Tarrasch's. Bishop takes c5. I mean, the same piece configuration, just a slightly different structure where the pawn is transferred over here from here. So, like literally, if you move the c pawn from c2 to e2, you have a typical Queen's Gambit Tarash. What's the difference? Maybe black's saw I could get isolated pawn. Well, I mean, I think that people misunderstand isolated pawn positions a lot. They're not like good or bad. I mean, it all depends. Depends on the position. Here, I'm a little nervous about my f2. You know, unlike the Tarash, where we have another pawn on e2, our kingside has, you know, just the 3 pawns. So you play rook e1 check. I also would have strongly considered playing this. But we have to be careful about our f2. You know, if you want to be really extreme, masturbate with another donation. That doesn't count toward the height train, because you were the last to donate. There's like Botvinnik, or Botvinnik, has a famous game against Boleslavsky in the French Tarash where he played bishop e3 and voluntarily allowed, it was like Soviet Championship, I don't know, 47, I don't remember which Soviet Championship it was against Boleslavsky, where he voluntarily allowed his pawn structure to be wrecked. It's not good in this position, but I'm just saying, like, I'm almost certain it's not good in this position. But we'd like to trade the darks for bishops. Maybe we can't afford to make too many pawn weaknesses here. I mean, clearly bishop g5 is a move. Another move that I like is knight c3. This is what Hansen played. You have ideas of moving this knight, you know, putting pressure on the d5 pawn. There are sometimes knight a4 to drive the bishop off this diagonal. So I think those are the moves that are best. There's apparently a very subtle move here, a3. Hikaru McShane have played this. You know, you kind of had the feeling like this has to be too slow. But, you know, there could be threats of b4, b5. Mr. Coffee, what is that? Happy, what, is that a cat? Happy Tariff Day. So a3, you know, I love a good a3. But okay, rook e1 check, very tempting. Now, if black retreats the bishop, he is definitely in a dubious place. That leaves only the option of king f8, knight e4. Is knight e4 a problem? Or bishop e6. Oh, wow. I totally missed that this is even possible. Knight e7, interesting. Wow. Yeah, I missed this move altogether. Taking pressure off of d4. That means you can play bishop e3 without black having the d4 advance. And what happens on knight e4? We do this anyway. But knight e4 obviously is a bit more active for black. And then the other question is bishop e6. Unfortunately, white doesn't have too good of a score here, because you have major problems to answer at f2. So although you might have ideas against his e6, it turns out that it may work against you. I don't like white's score. So that's black's best. Knight e7, okay, bishop e3 is good, and now you're safe. This is key. The f2 isn't weak, and now very solid. Now c3 is a little slow. Maybe you have something better than that. but you got to get your pieces out. I'm not sure if black is threatening anything like knight f5. I mean, this move needs to be considered. c3 feels a tiny bit slow. This is atrocious. You know, like that. That's horrible. The knight on g6. I have the feeling we're going to get to a pretty good IQP middle game here. The d4 square. We want to get the maximum. Queen c2. You could bring the rook to e1. So actually this looks promising. You would put pressure on that, and have rook e1 coming. I think we can stop knight e4 by putting pressure on d5. This move feels kind of lazy. Now my only fear would be that maybe black could sack a pawn or something active. For example, if you take the pawn on b7, they play rook b8, take the pawn on a7, they take the pawn on b2. Maybe they're a pawn down, but they have some kind of, I don't know, counterplay where you have some weaknesses in the position. For example. But maybe your slow method is okay here. The only thing is that the e4 square, it's completely gone. You know, so he'll be able to hold that. Look, b6 is atrocious. I don't know why he's playing b6 here. You know, it's just really weird. He's afraid of knight c5 or what? I mean, he wants to... Maybe he's afraid of queen d4, and you're going to hit that a pawn. I guess it's not that bad. Okay, maybe b6 isn't so bad. I'm being a little bit overly critical. He's got to do something. All right, queen d3, p1, and now h4. Yeah, this is going to be a long grind. But h4, it's not exactly the optimal moment. I mean, normally h4 against the knight on g6 is always good. But he has such good control of g4 here that I'm not really convinced. Yeah. I completely missed he could play knight e7 in the opening. I would play it slower. You know, I don't know. h4 looks a little bit like we're weakening g4, but okay. It may not be bad. Yeah, I'm certainly not afraid of queen g4. Honestly, I don't know. Yeah, obviously he's much worse, but you know, he should try to trade pieces. Why doesn't he play like rook e8? You're not threatening h5. I mean, do you have h5? How are you getting in h5? He could also play like h6 maybe, just to make sure you can never use the g5 square. But I figure trade rooks. What is this move? Queen g4 doesn't really do anything here. You know, maybe this is a bad move. You're trading off his bad knight on g6. I don't know. I think you should do something else. I don't feel like he has any threats. And the only annoying move is knight e4. But we'll see. Okay. Knight e5, you're still clearly better. You trade off his bad knight on g6, and you're still better. He definitely should have tried to trade rooks. Now your rook is quite active. And this looks hollow. So is he threatening f6? You have rook e7. You have rook e7 on the move. He has no threats in your rook e7. Queen f5. Queen f5, you can always meet that with a plethora of replies. Yeah, so you're very good here. Bishop takes c4 is kind of cringe. But it might win by force, huh? Oof. You have rook takes b7. Oh my god. Wow. Alright, so this works tactically. He never made the back rank lift. Boom. I told him he should have played h6 at some point. He just missed bishop takes e4, yeah. I would have found it. I would have found it eventually. I was practicing tactics last night. Oh, that's a nice move. That's a fancy tactic. That's pretty neat. He's going to get like a bazillion checks. He's got to sack the rook here. I mean, come on. He can't resign now. He has to sack the rook. How many checks does he get? Rook f2, king f2, queen c2 check. Oh my god, it's a drawn position. Oh my god. I can't believe it. I can't believe he resigned. Dude, I would do that just for spite. I didn't know if it was a draw, but I mean, he's got to try. That's unbelievable. Wow, you were really, really lazy. You were really, really lazy to play that 96 move. This is extremely lazy play by you. You're winning like 6 waves from Sunday, and you do this like fancy move with 96. This is a lesson, man. You know, first off, like I tell Asterbait all the time, when you're up material, trade down. You know, the first rule is like rook b8. Then you're really threatening 96. Whew, what a lesson. Wow. You got to take this to heart. Damn, it is a draw. I had no idea it was a draw. I just thought he had a shitload of checks. I don't believe it. Wow. I mean, yeah, I could see how you could make the mistake of just assuming you would get out. But, yeah, I didn't see. You could try to go out here. Like, boom, 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 boom. And that's actually winning. You might have even calculated this far, for example. It's a freaky move. You have queen d2. I mean, he has queen d2. But there's no reason to risk it even being close. You know, I would not have even let him get close to that. That was a lazy move. All right, good game. A lesson about that. That should not have happened. Now, the mysterious power of the new. Last game, guys, I got to go. I'm back with Blitz tomorrow, 12 to 3 o'clock. 12:30 to 3 o'clock, something like that. CEST. Thanks, Asterbait, for your donations today. We're up to 1,600. So I don't know who Power the New is. They stay mysterious. Strong blitz player. So Bishop G5. Oh, we're gonna get another. Yeah, we got another Cambridge Springs variation. E3, C5, or C6, Knight F3, Queen A5, and now I played the very unusual Bishop takes F6. The give away your Dark Star Bishop for nothing, which ends up happening in a lot of lines anyway. But I have to admit, I've never seen anyone do this. Grishuk Mamjarov 2014. So it's been played. There's some older games. Ullman. I guess it's like equal. It's not that bad. To be honest, you end up giving up your bishop in a lot of variations anyway. But I mean, I would have seen this if it was good. You know, I would have seen some examples of this if it was good. So bishop takes f6. Yeah, got to take with the knight. And now the main move is knight d2. Well, at least you avoid dropping your bishop like I did in 1986 to queen takes g5. And now there's a move queen b3. So we're following Grishuk Mamjarov. There's also, interestingly, Mark Hebden against Charlie Cobb, which is interesting because Hebden used to use a move order that would like avoid the, when he would play d4, sometimes would avoid the Cambridge Springs. Queen b3. Very logical. So it's reminiscent of like a Rogozin. And now black has c5, which is consistent because it goes for dark square play, since white doesn't have a dark square bishop. But instead the opponent played this. And now knight e4. A move that's only been played in one game. Alright, so at the end of the day, what does black get here? And what does white get? Black gets white. White has a better center. Black gets the bishop pair. You know, you gotta wonder, like, is bishop a3 even a good move at the end of the day? I guess it is. All right. Bishop a3, rook b1, castles. So we transpose back to that game where Sun Prism asked the question about b5. A different position, but similar idea. Black actually played b5. This is some kind of African zonal tournament. Yeah, I mean, black playing b5 is somewhat anti-positional, but it might be justified. You could get your bishop to b7. If you get in c5, everything will work out. But instead, black played c5, also a very natural move here. And now white, you know, I would feel like, I don't know, I don't have much here with white, but black's bishop is still blocked in. So knight e5 stops the movement of that knight, or that bishop, into the game. There's also this diagonal. So you kind of got the feeling that the b5 guy might have had a point there. Black could try a6 and b5 now. So if b5, knight c6 would trap the queen. Temporarily, at least. No, it wouldn't. That's a lie. I told a lie. Yeah. What's the computer say? Yeah, a6 is not good. Wow. Wow. Really? a6 loses by force? Holy shit. a6 loses by force to bishop d3, threatening knight c4. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? And if b5, bishop e4, threatening knight c6? Unbelievable. Wow. So rook b8 was a move. c5 here. Takes, only move. And now what? Bishop d6, getting the bishop back in the game. This is supposedly 10 plus 5. White has a perfect position. Small advantage. Tempting to play f4. I mean, this is very consistent. The 4. Where's 424? 44 today. Have we seen 44 today? Hebden. Probably a big fan of Pillsbury. I mean, I can't come up with another idea. I don't know why you wouldn't play f4 here. You're afraid of queen d2? It's not threatening anything. You gotta play f4, man. I mean, it's normal to do f4. So he played knight f3. This doesn't do anything, you know? We just sort of like retreated without a fight. This is lame. You gotta play f4. What's he gonna do? If you take here, you take with the f pawn. You get a stonewall attack. But definitely f4. White was a little bit like doing nothing here. So he didn't want to play b5. Plays queen h5. This queen is... I still think that fruit flies bite, by the way. Alright, queen h5. Cheapos. This is a good move. Bishop b8. Uh-oh. Asprey, what about your rook? It can come out here. Bishop a7. That's awkward for black. I got the feeling that black should have played b5 already and missed his chance. Bishop d3. That opens up the other rook. So we have rook takes c8, rook takes c8, and queen takes b7. It might not be enough. Black plays bishop here, queen d6, b5. White has 2 minutes to 4. White is better. No clear way to break through. There's bishop e4. Bishop e4, rook b8. What about like queen e7? Black feels almost paralyzed after queen e7. I think that black has queen d5 maybe. But this looks very good for white, actually. You're definitely clearly better. Winning position. So even like, yeah, bishop e4. For some reason I didn't realize this works. I didn't see the point, you know. Bishop e4 works. So that's really, really bad. Black can't play b5 here. The position is already bad. It just feels like a rapid game that degenerated into bullet play. And now queen c2. He let black sneak out. Because queen c7, rook c8, I guess? But even this has to be okay. I mean, even there, it's not that rook, the other rook. Even there, I mean, we could hang out on the 7th rank. Sorry, mouse time. New mouse time. Well, there's no way that white can lose this game. Unless you trade queens and go to an ending where black has a queenside majority and they come down. You know, it's just hard to believe white's going to lose this. He just makes moves. This is lame, h3. But it's still, white's fine. Wow. Even now, white is fine. But it's getting harder to do anything. We're going to have to be careful. Maybe rook c5. Bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, g4. And now you're going to have to be very, very careful. So takes. Queen h2 check, king f1. Does this work for white? Can I take this? Take. Take. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. So you basically got kind of bluffed here by g4. You have to take that. He can attack you on the light squares. Even the queen like helps protect f2. So it's surprising, but there's nothing there for black. But after this, I don't know. You tried to keep the structure intact. This is probably close to working, but there might be sacrifices like bishop takes g3. I would be scared of bishop takes g3. Maybe that's not even enough, though. We get kind of bamboozled here. Queen g7, king h2, rook f6. I mean, what? Now just defend your g3 pawn. Probably safer to play bishop b3. I mean, bishop f3. He played bishop b3. It's safer to play bishop f3. Keep the bishop close to your king. Yeah, this was obvious that black was going to do this. We're safer with our bishop on f3. Now h5. So now we might be in serious trouble. I would say that we're in serious trouble. King takes h3, h4. You have to play king takes h3 here. Not easy. I missed it as well. King takes h3. I mean, I saw that, but I didn't see this. That can't be right. I can't believe it. Oh my god. g4. I can't believe that works. If f takes g4, we just hide. Wow. No, there's a tactic. And bishop takes e6 check. Wow. So your defense, in defense, you were a little too passive. And eventually, it's too much. This still might be fine. What about queen b7? Oh no. Oh no, queen b7. Yeah, it's winning. No, even here we're still alive. Wow. What? e4? Why would you play e4 in this position? You have rook g1, pinning his bishop to his king. So it's weird. White like degenerated into time pressure. But there's like an increment. Unbelievable. He didn't find rook g1. White must get nervous or something. This is very easy to see. You played a strange move, e4. That's like a trick almost. Like you're hoping for f takes e, so then you have rook g1. And he could have played rook g1 in the previous move. Weird. And then it's just a bullet game. And we lost the rook in game, which is obviously lost. Alright, that's it, guys. I gotta go. We'll see you tomorrow for some blitz. Thanks for your support. Asterbait, Mr. Slow, everybody who donated gift subs and other funds. I will see you Monday. See you Friday and Sunday. Tomorrow, Friday. I'll see you Monday too, but we'll see you Friday, tomorrow blitz, and 12 to 12:30 to 3, and then Sunday simul. Mr. Slow, be there. I'll see you there. Thanks, guys. Have a great night. Good games. Bye-bye.